Yeah, we here. Ready to start your week. My week too. Let's get this going. It's open panel. Um, I was checking on the news, and it looks like the Trump assassin. He left a letter, so I'm going through that. He blatantly says this was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, but I failed you. I tried my best and gave it all the gumption I could muster. It is up to you to now finish the job. I will offer 150,000 to whoever can complete the job. This is sick, and this is endorsed by the left. People like Destiny. I think violence is my new line. If you in any way, if you can't come out and condemn violence, and people who like Destiny approve of this kind of stuff, I don't have a place for you. I love you, but let's just like keep our side of the playground. It's I can't resolve the dissonance in myself over somebody like that, and it's creating a climate where people believe that they're being heroes by assassinating presidents. That they're actually doing good, like they're pleasing mommy by killing the bad man. I think this like primitive psychology is being exploited by social media, not necessarily by anybody in particular, but the atmosphere is ripe for exploitation. And so I'm going to make a commitment to myself to not contribute to this anymore. So any pedophilia has always been a line for me. Anything to do with kids, like anything inappropriate with kids, has always been a very hard red line for me. And violence has been another. Um, but I haven't so much looked at the issue of like enablers of violence, and I think that's what I'm targeting is people that enable violence, and or people that maybe that enables the right word, but normalize violence and possibly even heroicize violence. Those are the people. It's happening here in this community. It's happening in real life. So I think that's a new line for me. If you are so I wonder how much many of these people are psychopaths. I'm trying to work through the psychology of someone that resists and hesitates before they can condemn violence, like tries to rationalize maybe way like not condemning violence. I just don't understand that. That should be so easy to do. Yes, we should not go around assassinating presidents. So, hey, Mike, because it's a conspiracy. Because the DOG is controlled by the Jewish globalists, and we're all their slaves, and it's a conspiracy against the people in the world. That's why they're doing it. It's not for any benign justice-related purposes. It's not to inform the public. They were on here the other day complaining the public doesn't get informed enough. So they try to inform the public, and now they get suspicion. Anyway, let me see what else this letter has in it. Ryan Wesley Routh. He had a list of Trump locations, and he did searches of how to it's like get to Mexico afterwards. This guy was he was like he put a lot of man hours into this. Wow, he even had a book. He self-published a book, and in it he told the country of Iran, "You are free to assassinate Trump." These people want this man dead. Hey, Samsonite, that is sick. That is more sick than Trump. That is more sick. That's why this is projection. I call it the hateful left, and it's all projection. When they watch what they say about Trump because they're looking in the mirror, it's themselves they're telling on. I think they're the most violent people in America. I think they're the greatest danger to America. The greatest domestic danger to America is the hatred on the left and the violence that people are willing to carry out in its name. And if you have any ambivalence about that, you are not for me. I wish you the best. Let's try to make a country together as best we can, but I'm not normalizing that. And I'm not helping anyone else to do it. Let me see if I have any Twitters. Oh, I think I do. Videos. I haven't watched this yet, but it's from a black. Well, he has black skin. He looks black-ish to me, what people today would call black. Oh, it's 6.5 minutes long. You know what? Let's watch it anyway, or some of it. It's a black man talking about the moment he stopped believing Donald Trump was a racist. I haven't seen it yet.
I made a video the other day asking people when was the moment that they came to the conclusion Donald Trump is racist. A lot of people said Essential Part 5. We'll talk about that in another video. For me personally, it was the very fine people on both sides thing.
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
I remember seeing that clip and feeling like, wow, maybe he is racist. And I just happened to come across this video on YouTube. It basically said that the clip was edited and that I should go back and watch the entire clip. So I watched the entire thing. It got to that point where he says very fine people on both sides. And I'm like, see, that's exactly, I knew he said that. There's no point in me even continuing to watch this. And then it goes on and it gets to the part where he's like.
And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
So he said he wasn't talking about the neo-Nazis and white supremacists. Why would they show me part of the story and make me feel like this? Even in the presidential debate against Joe Biden, he brought up the very fine people thing.
He said, I think they're fine people on both sides. What American president would ever say, Nazis coming out of fields, carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic
I noticed this the night of the debate, too, that Biden had
even
swallowed a false narrative.
Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people.
These people are lying. They're liars.
Spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side.
People are still saying it, even though it's been debunked. Snopes just added this shit in 2024 that was a lie. It supposedly said in 2000
because they want their narrative keeps their psyche going. These are hateful people. They need a reason to hate. They cannot not hate.
You know, self-destructing. When you say the party is self-destructing, what do you see as the biggest problem with the Reform Party right now?
Well, you've got David Duke just joined, a bigot, a racist, a problem. I mean, this is
same
not exactly
thing that
the
people in Louisiana said, like over half the state, 2/3 of the state.
Beyond that, in terms of reaching out and being inclusive, he's done that too. And created for many people a comfort zone when I ran for the presidency in 84 and 88. And many others thought it was either laughable or something to avoid. He came to our business meeting here in New York because he has this sense of the curious and a will to risk to make things better. And so aside from all of his style and his pizzazz, he's a serious person who's an effective builder of building to build people. Last year, he was a part of our workshop, of our panel workshop on what are the challenges and opportunities. And so this, a year later, Donald Trump, for a few minutes, challenges and opportunities to embrace the underserved communities. Donald Trump.
Well, it is an honor to be here.
You see the clip with him on The View and him and Whoopi Goldberg, she's saying that they're friends.
I don't think I'm going to get Whoopi's vote.
If you did, let me just ask, if you did beat...
And she likes me. She even put me in her movies. She put me in her movies, right? A long time ago. And how much did I charge? Nothing.
Like they say in the
it was a freebie.
I hope this is not copyright.
People love this guy. Like Oprah saying that he should run for president.
Right.
A vice presidential candidate in mind?
Well, I really haven't gotten quite there yet.
I guess it's just
Oprah. I love Oprah. Oprah would always be my first choice. Oprah, your competitor, right?
Oprah's competitor.
You know what? I'll tell you, she's really a great woman.
They fell into some kind of
she's
narrative capture
special.
after 2016. I fell into it too. I just was intelligent enough to get myself out of it, I guess.
Judge Joe Brown said,
I've talked to a number of black entrepreneurs who back in the late 80s and 90s, early 90s, were trying to get financing. They couldn't. Somebody told them to go check with Donald Trump. So they come back and tell me they got a loan from Donald Trump. You gave him a term loan. Show up with the interest in the principal.
Wow,
on
isn't that
check.
the opposite
But
of
they had to go
racism?
see him personally.
He's actually
They
giving black
independently
people
relate this tale
loans.
that when they saw him, he said, "This is what you're supposed to pay me? This our agreement?" So yeah, and then tore the check up, shook their hands, and congratulations. Now run your business.
And this was when?
This was back in the 90s.
Waka
How,
Flocka
that
talks
is
about how
fucking
he showed him
racist.
how
Giving
to
black
increase
people
his wealth.
loans.
Get a C corp to run an LLC. If you want to make it even deeper, go get a trust fund and run a corp that runs the LLC. You want to get even deeper, own two trust funds for your business and your person to run that trust that runs all the business. It can get deep, my guy.
Absolutely.
And Donald Trump actually showed me that method.
People will say that they want truth,
Empowering
but when you try
black
to
people.
present them with information that goes against their beliefs of
Yes,
Donald Trump.
yes. Confirmation
they act like
bias.
He's
Narrative
condemned white
capture.
supremacy over 20 times.
It's done in Kruger, really. That's what I call it.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you like to see a video of montage of 20 times that he's done it?
Oh, actually, no. I'm more interested in walking up in.
But how are we going to learn if we don't challenge our ideas? I mean, you just made a statement that is actually inaccurate, and I can show you video
Yeah,
evidence.
see,
of
this is
why
me.
it
This
Would
is
you like
me
to see
on
that?
my channel
He's
all day. I
condemned
love
white
this
supremacy and
guy.
the KKK over 20 times.
Over 20 times?
Yeah.
Do you
He's
have
doing
them right
it in
here? Can I
person.
listen to it?
Absolutely, you can. Let me pull it up for you right now.
All right.
By the way, I'm James. How's your day going, man?
It'd be a lot better if you guys were wearing masks.
We can socially distance.
I gotta go.
Wait. You don't want to see the examples? I have 20 examples right here.
He is a white supremacist.
See?
Like Yuri
Oh my
said.
God.
Exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts
Demoralization that's disempowerment. That's what I keep saying. Why are people so fucking disempowered? What's
when
wrong
a military
with them?
boot crashes his balls, then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization.
The populace versus the establishment. Whatever they do to the populist candidate, they're doing to you. When you assist the establishment in crushing the populist candidate, they're going to turn around and do it to you next. Whatever rules that they broke to get at him, that you cheered on because you were so anti-him, those rules were broken
The Karens
so
are
that they
coming.
could get your consent. And now that they've used your hatred to build consent to break the rules, now they can turn that same attack towards
And
you.
all you little white
And you've
burnt
yayed
soy
and
boys are going to be the
amended
first to
into
go.
existence. If you previously believed that Trump was racist and then something changed your mind, I'd like to know what was that moment. Thank you for watching again. Like I said, I appreciate your time and attention because you can't get it back. Leave whatever opinions that you want in the comments, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.
Thank you, my brother. That was good. All right, let me check comments. And then I have another video. I think that's related. Hey, Untrackable Plasma. In my intro. Oh, how do we remember it? I did think about that, Abe. But I used it last week. I think he's a Machiavellian, a narcissist, as an opportunist. I think every color is green. Every skin color is green to him. I grew up in the 80s with Donald Trump. Oh, hey, Untrackable. I'll bring you on in just a sec. I got one more video I want to show. Donald Trump was associated with a lot of things. He was sleazy. He was tacky. He was trashy. He's probably corrupt. Racism was not ever one of those things, nor was homophobia. And watching The Apprentice, I never saw him like racism or homophobia from. I saw some ableism when he fired Cyndi Lauper. She had ADHD. But racism and homophobia is just not something that our generation got associated with Donald Trump. That happened after 2016 when they tried to graft this end of the world narrative, like he's the coming of the end times if we don't stop him. And they used racism and everything else they used to throw at him to make it stick. The same stuff they try to use on me and everyone that's not part of them. Right, yeah. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why people are that like passive and easily led. Maybe lack of sense. Yeah, that's the question. These people have a self? I know they're looking for an identity or creating an identity, but do they have a self? Hey, Chuck. Yeah, it's like princess syndrome. That's Bezmenov, Yuri. Yeah, Yuri Bezmenov. Same here. And I go with evidence. I don't go with narrative. All right. Here, Let me do my overlay. In the back, United Negro College Fund. Who are you? You either have to flash your camera or let me know who you are. All right, well, you're not coming on, but I will bring on. Hey, is that you? Oh, you're on stage. Is that you?
Oh, yes, it's me.
All right, cool. Oh, while I'm thinking about it, no, I didn't. Let me look, Chuck. I'm really considering recruiting a few wrenches for moderation. I don't know, maybe whoever's reliable that's here more or less regularly that can help me with some of the troll problems that we have now. Let's see. Who are you? I'm not sure who you are. I'll do an overlay and bring you on, and we'll see what happens. Let me look up Mel's show. I know she did one on true crime last night. Ah, Hollywood Satanist Week. Oh, Epstein. Is she like associating Satanism with Epstein? Is that the topic? That's weird. That's very tempting. Let's see how the day goes and talk. I might wrench a few of you up today if it gets really bad and try it out as an experiment. And the rule is going to be no. Here, it's going to be these satanic rules that I've been implementing. We might as well go over them. When in another's lair, show him respect or else do not go there. That's really the only rule. Like it's about respecting the guest and the panelists. So little passive-aggressive snipes at me or Mike or any of the other panelists are doxing or accusations in the chat against each other. Like they bring other chat drama into the chat room and then they direct it at each other. All of that shit, feel free to mod. But nothing else. Like I want as free speech as possible unless it breaks my request to not have that over here so that we can have a better channel. If a guest in your lair annoys you, treat him cruelly and without mercy. That's what the wrench crew is going to do. They're going to ban you without mercy. And if someone bothers you, ask him to stop. If he does not stop, destroy him. I will ban you. Okay, what's up, Untrackable? I had this other video.
No, please go on with your other video. Yeah, please.
It's kind of along the same lines. It's two videos. One is Trump. Like it's like a partial video and then the full video. So let me just show it and you'll see. Okay, see. Left video is from mainstream media. Right video is the full video.
That was just the beginning. Trump stoking more fear about migrants at the southern border.
How do I blow it? Okay.
That was just the beginning. Trump stoking more fear about migrants at the southern border. Trump at one point saying they're not people.
I don't know if you call them people. In some cases, they're not people, in my opinion, but I'm not allowed to say that because the radical left says it's a terrible thing to say. These are bad. These are animals.
And while blasting the auto industry's foreign manufacturing.
Okay, and then I guess we're supposed to watch this next video. That's the real video.
Unbelievable when I see it going. But I got to know all these people. They're very smart, very streetwise. And I would do the same thing. If I had prisons that were teeming with MS-13 and all sorts of people that they've got to take care of for the next 50 years, right? Young people, they're in jail for years, if you call them people. I don't know if you call them people. In some cases, they're not people, in my opinion. But I'm not allowed to say that because the radical left says that's a terrible thing to say. They say you have to vote against him because did you hear what he said about humanity? I've seen the humanity, and these are bad. These are animals, okay? And we have to stop it. We can't have another Lakin. We have so many people. We have so many people being hurt so badly and being killed. They're sending their prisoners to see us. They're bringing them right to the border, and they're dropping them off, and we're allowing them to come in. And these are tougher than anybody we've got in the country. These are hardened criminals, and we've got hundreds.
Nice, really nice. So they cut out the part where he was referring specifically to the M13 prisoners, which probably are animals and not good people, to make it seem like he was talking about the ordinary immigrants coming over. This is media manipulation. Like when people talk about the media, okay, hang on one sec, college fund. When people talk about the media manipulation narrative, my response is, yeah, duh. Why do you even pay attention to the media anymore? But it's stuff like this. Like people that do pay attention to the media are seeing stuff like this. There's a person in the back called United Negro College Fund. We're going to see what he's about. Hello, College Fund.
Hey, Jeff, is this a free speech panel channel?
It is, but not for you. But good. He has a game now where he tries to come on under other names now that I have my overlay, because he knows that I'll use the overlay to bring him on. And then he tries to get his voice in, and then he makes clips, and he goes back to his channel. He's like, haha, look, I got on Gen X Jeff's channel today. That's this person's life. Like his whole life is seeing if he could hop on my channel and fool me enough to say 2 or 3 words that he can clip to show his viewers, and that's his YouTube content. This is how pitiful this person has become.
Yeah, I'd rather just come up here and have a conversation about whatever we decide to talk about rather than like a gotcha moment. You know what I mean?
Right. I might even switch to this. StreamYard has a way where you can have people log in, like authenticate. Let me see how it works. You can require guests to authenticate, and if until they authenticate, they can't come on. And that's going to cut down on the number of viewers, but it might help the troll problem. So I might look at switching to that.
And it'll also add some level of protection, because to authenticate, like, you have to register with StreamYard. Like, I'm up here not registered with StreamYard. I just click your link and pop up, and
Right, they would keep people like you out if I did that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that either.
But I would authenticate personally, because the channels that I frequent, like yours, and thank you for having me, they're worth it. But if you're going to be a troll, they're not going to authenticate. Right. They're not going to prove identity, even to come up with a false name, because it's all going to be connected. And like the problem with YouTube has been that they're not holding trolls accountable. They're punishing channels that get trolled. Maybe StreamYard's got going to play a role in eliminating trolls, or at least controlling who you let up a little more efficiently for when somebody does you wrong. You know what I mean?
I would think they would, but they're not. That other service I tried had where you could talk to the trolls in the back before you brought them on. Even something like that would help. But StreamYard, hey, Mr. Accord, are you legit?
Hey. You know me, Jeff.
Oh my God, what are you up to? I thought you disappeared.
I did disappear for a bit.
Wow. This is Joe, everybody. He used to come on the channel.
That's right.
What is up?
Been what, 9 or 10 months maybe?
Yeah, it feels like a year.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm very excited to see you.
Welcome back, Tim.
Do you have a new channel or anything? Or anything you want to promote?
Nothing I'm looking to promote, no. I guess I could if I were being a good businessman, but not here today. Not on your platform.
Okay, fair enough. Well, catch us up. What's up with you?
Well, when you and I last left off, I was doing stuff with that IDW charity.
Yeah.
As I had told you, The other board members had irreconcilable differences, so the only solution at that point was to disband the organization. So I ended up just getting into some other gig and finding an alternate way to become self-employed, which has been going pretty steady. So I didn't ultimately fare too poorly from that, but yeah, it's just doing completely different stuff now.
So you're still doing the self-employed thing?
Yeah, yeah, I'm a stock analyst. So I do freelance article writing about investments.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah.
that's paying?
Yep.
Wow. Well, that's inspirational.
Yeah, it's certainly a lot more sustainable, I think, just right off the bat, even than trying to run a charitable organization. Um, which I
Well,
think is not too surprising.
what's going to happen with the IDW thing, or you think that concept is past?
I think there are things over the years that put it to the test. Even my attempt to make a charitable organization based on it was one of those. And I think essentially, as far as the people who associate with it are concerned, whether we're talking, the well-known public figures or their large base of fans and followers online and across the world, I think they failed every major test. I think anything that it purported to be.
What was the mission of the charity?
So it was meant to realize the goals of the broader movement that was called the intellectual dark web. Um, if you're familiar with like podcasters and public intellectuals like Jordan Peterson, Sam
Yeah.
Harris, Eric Weinstein, Joe Rogan, it was something that started among that movement of groups, folks, and the groups that were you know associated with them, and new personalities that even rose up at sort of based on the kind of online the intellectual movement that was starting under them. It was aiming to be sort of this sort of nonpartisan, common sense way to talk about issues and sort through problems. Um, and so I wanted to start a charitable organization that could support work that would accomplish this sort of nonpartisan dialogue and actually, push people toward developing systems that would allow us, because the thing is our modern day systems have been developing in a way in which you're sort of forced to be partisan more and more in aspects of your everyday life, which did not used to be the case. And so
Correct.
essentially the hope was that we could preserve and make it possible for just essentially normal life prior to um, when the culture wars started getting their fingers in everything. But it didn't gain steam, and I think there were a lot of other things that could have been done or were attempted by other people over the years, because the term was coined back in January of 2018, and it doesn't really seem like it got anywhere. I think ultimately too many people just allowed them to get caught up in partisan thinking and the culture wars, and as much as they might sort of reminisce on the time before that and say, "Oh, why can't we go back?" Most people don't have the self-control or the iron will to sort of step out of themselves and do that. I've noticed also that a lot of people who claim to be, because free speech was one of the primary values of the IDW, if you remember. I've noticed a lot of people who claim to be advocates of free speech, when it really comes down to it, are not. What they care about is their free speech
Correct.
and their ability to be heard. They're not really
Mm-hmm.
interested in hearing other people. And free speech as a value
Correct.
doesn't really make sense if you're not interested in what other people have to say. All you need for your own free speech is more guns than the other people. Um,
Uh,
and you have to be willing to, like, the whole point of free speech is valuable is that there's supposed to be a dialogue. At some point we shut our mouths and we wait and listen to what someone else has to say. We assess we assess maybe their appraisal, their interpretation, their analysis of what we said, and then we can live an examined life. Um, imagine if Socrates just ran his mouth, but he was not interested in living an examined life. I don't think he would have been as well remembered in history. And I think that's the problem that ran into the IDW, is that whether we're talking about some of the public figures or a lot of their fans, it was very egoistic
yes.
in the way it went. It didn't have to be. That's just how it went. And I suspect the opportunity was missed, and I didn't think there was a way to recover it. So once the And in fact, that's part of why I think the other board members had their irreconcilable differences with each other.
Like
So
they
Well,
were facing their
once
own despair.
once the
they,
speaker starts getting into money, their attitude changes, their outlook
mhm.
changes,
Yeah. So
is what I see.
Maybe for some people, probably for more people than not.
yeah. So I put as much effort into it through the charitable organization and through the other stuff I did as I think could reasonably put into it. And now it's just we're just gonna let the toy that's been wound up go, and even if it's a partisan toy that wants to rip itself apart. That's apparently that's what I think people have decided they want in this country, I guess.
So you think centrism
Yep.
is dead? Paul ended his show too, like his morning
Yeah,
show.
I think.
Paul Young?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
I
shit.
think centrism is basically dead.
Well, not
Especially
here. Not in this channel. So if you're a centrist, there's still a home for you.
yeah. But I do think in terms of like material changes, like if you want, let's say you want to work in a workplace um that isn't woke, right? You just want to be a guy who just isn't always like um trying to
Cutting edge. Yeah.
police your speech so that you fit in and that you look like an activist at fucking work. Right?
Yep.
And again, that doesn't require you to be a conservative because like it also means that like you would not want to have to like go into work, with like a thin blue patch, a thin blue line patch on your shoulder, right? Like I wouldn't want to go to a place where like that's expected, right? I just sort of want to be a guy again.
Or a cross.
And yeah, in fact, there was actually like an instance a few years ago where somebody here in North Carolina, a small business owner, he had probably about 30 employees. He tried to lead them all in company prayer one day, and one guy said he didn't want to, so the guy fired him.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and to me, that's a rare example of what you might call maybe more of a right-wing cancel culture or whatever, if you want to draw the parallel. And but I don't think there are many people who are willing to let there be neutral workplaces anymore, which is why I went the route of self-employment. Because what's really bad about that stuff is it's not merely that it is done to you, but if you want to stay in there at some point, they will ask you to do that to other folks, right? They will ask you to join in a dog pile, potentially on your
And people will
coworkers
do
and
it.
such.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it, then they will, make you the victim of the dog pile with that
I
person.
see this on YouTube. It happens on here
Yeah.
too. That
That
same
was one of
dynamic.
the biggest arguments I had when I was still working in the union I belonged to, when they decided to start dipping their toe into backing candidates. I'm like, it's not our union's job to get involved. We need to stay neutral. And I was always fighting with the union board over that issue.
Yeah,
You
everything is
can't.
becoming politicized and tilting
Yep.
left.
Yeah, it's I think the union kind of loses a lot of its credibility when it gets into endorsing candidates. Obviously, historically, unions have tended to endorse Democrats, and for a
Yep.
reason. But uh, if you really want the union to be what it is, which is for all the workers, it really needs to be about how do you get them all in one room, and how do you focus on the simple bread and butter issues that unite them, so that they can negotiate better with management. And endorsements are a way to undermine that. And I actually worry that was I know that uh, woke leftists are actively trying to subvert unions to push their agenda there, and essentially stab their fellow workers in the back if they don't go woke with them.
How so?
In
How do
fact,
they?
Well, that's what I'm afraid of.
so I'll
If
give you an example.
Harrison won't get in with
So
their
this
free
happened with
speech.
the IDW subreddit. I don't want to cut off the other gentleman who was talking. I can't see his name, but it's not
Chuck. That's our
Chuck.
elder.
It's Chuck.
Chuck. And also,
No,
there's
I
a
was
question
saying.
about your thoughts on Mark Robinson, if you have any, when you get a chance.
Well, because
Go
you
ahead.
remember I'm from North Carolina. Yeah,
Okay, go ahead,
we'll
Chuck.
table that.
You look very radiant today, very spiritualized.
Who does?
You.
Oh, that's because the sun. What little bit of sunshine we got at the
Oh.
moment, because we're rather overcast. No, I was just saying, if Harris and Waltz get in and they push this ability to monitor speech on the platforms is going to be bad.
I'm very worried.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
a vote winner.
yeah, it's terrible. But to give an example of how I know union organizers and leaders are trying to infiltrate, and one, it's that if you've ever been part of any group, if one leftist shows up, that's what they try to do. Right. So if you start a tennis club, all you want to do is start tennis. The leftists in there is like they're going to start complaining and nitpicking about, we have our club meetings on Saturday, but the African American community, does this on Saturday, and we're excluding them because they'll be busy. And it's just look at who's not in the room, and they'll just start doing all this emotionally manipulative horse shit. And
Yep.
you're like, we wanted to play tennis. If they want to play tennis, they can just come here instead of that, right? It's a fucking Saturday. Everyone does shit and plans their meetings on Saturday. I
Yep.
mean, come on.
Like all black people do the same thing on Saturday. None of them will come and play tennis.
That it's like they're planning their thing on Saturday. No one goes to them and say, you're excluding the tennis players by having your meeting today. Like it's bullshit.
Yeah.
And
They're
that's the
they're
thing. It's
they're
like
nanny stating pre-association. It's not free
exactly.
anymore. It's being Karenized.
And then what happens is that people who are more moderate and would never not do that are nevertheless too chicken to stand up to it, and then they go along with it, and then you have a fully fledged Leviathan at some point.
It's
And
happened in every community I've been in. I've watched that exact process happen. You
but
described.
to give a context that's more specific to unions, Jeff, you remember that I was the one of the two head mods of the IDW subreddit, and that was
Yes.
from 2018 until December of last year. And I left once the charity was clearly not going to work, because at that point it was just like I said. I saw all the different tests the communities had, and I said, okay, it's failed the final test. So I just completely got out of it, because moderating is not something I got paid to do, but it was still lots of hours of my time each week, and I was getting pretty fed up with it at that point. And I knew that we didn't have anyone who could like reasonably replace me in terms of what I was doing. There was one person, because we had opened the field for a junior moderator to share in the workload to join the team, and one person stepped up, and he was this guy who I knew to be a leftist, who was an active union organizer, and who was married to a trans woman. Now me, trying to be the cosmopolitan that I am, I guess, I said, you know what, let's give him a shot. Right? There's no reason. We've never said you can't have left leanings or signals of being left to be in the IDW, right? You can potentially be left and okay with free and open dialogue. And so I stepped down. The remaining head mod, who still has like the outranking permissions on the subreddit, decides to give him general discretion to moderate on the day-to-day, because he just doesn't have the time to do it. So he can pull the lever if he wants to stop him, but he was not gonna like watch too closely. So with this discretion, even though I had shown him what the correct way to moderate was, he decided to implement plenty of his own changes, and it eventually nearly killed the subreddit. And then I came back in for a few days and cleaned house of him and everyone he had appointed, and then I left again.
Was it free speech related?
So like he had put in this had never been done before in the subreddit. He put in things that would detect certain words and automatically remove comments
Oh, I
that
had
had
to
them.
do that here.
So transgenderism, for one, there's like transgenderism and like one other thing. There's only like two words. They were both related to the trans issue. And transgenderism was one that he had automatically removed, because he thought it was undermining the idea that trans people are real. This is the thing. It's like, if you're minimally critical of one detail of what trans activists say, they go into this full escalation of, you're saying that trans people don't exist. And I'm like, no, we're not fucking saying that. And you know it. But one thing he had mentioned, he explicitly said this when talking with another Redditor in that subreddit about it was a post about unions. He's like, yeah, I joined the union and I get active, and I do it because I see it as a way to spread my left-wing activism to the other members of the union. He specifically said that. Here at the university, so I'm in Chapel Hill, where the University of North Carolina is. That's what Jeff mentioned. I might have an opinion on Mark Robinson. It's also where I went to school, so I still live in Chapel Hill after graduating. The teachers' assistants had formed a union because they are very poorly paid. And theirs was focused on bread and butter issues. There was a Confederate memorial statue on this campus called Silent Sam. It actually got torn
Yep.
down
Yep. I
and
remember
made
that.
national news. Yeah, so that was a contentious issue starting in 2014, right? The year that wokeness took off. That was my senior year, the academic year 2013, 2014. That's when I noticed the campus started turning upside down. And Silent Sam went from being almost unnoticed to people saying, I don't feel safe with this on campus.
With a
That
concrete
was even
statue.
before
Yep.
Evergreen.
Yes, this was even before Evergreen. And
Wow.
what was funny is when people did talk about Silent Sam, it was a silly, stupid joke. The joke was, if you walked in front of Silent Sam and his gun fired, that meant that you're a virgin. That was it. I don't know who came up with that joke, but that's all anyone ever said about it. Nobody even knew it was a Confederate memorial. Nobody cared. And so yeah, it's there was a union there, and when the activists, and I know this because I live in a duplex, and my neighbors who lived in the upper unit, that they're not there anymore, they were TAs, and they told me about how the activists, kept using rather with outside of their authority or their lane or whatever their duty was, their place in the union. They would say, hey, we're calling a union meeting to protest the statue, whatever. And they kept burning their social capital and goodwill with each other, with the university, on protesting the statue rather than focus on what were the issues that affected all the TAs, which was, their pay, the hours they work, the share of the workload, the relationship between them and the professors, and making it something that was just financially feasible for them to do. And the TA union basically fell apart after that because that is just not what people wanted to do. And of course, the activists who were trying to use the union to protest the statue were basically like, well, if you're not with us, then you're with them. And it's just, if you're from someone who thinks there's a time and place for everything. For example, Jeff asked me if I wanted to promote anything. I said no, because there's a time and place for everything, right? If you think that, then they turn on you. And so I think there's a very sad thing where I think unions were one of the few things that over time had managed to be there to back people up, and maybe one of the few bulwarks against wokeism in the workplace and people losing their jobs. Because what wokeism does is it allows it allows it allows your boss to just come up with ways to throw you under the bus that used to not be possible because of unions. But if they infiltrate the unions, I mean, what do you have left at that point?
Exactly.
And what's the point? And it's like that is maybe the unions are maybe the one thing that's are traditionally associated with the left that conservatives could have imagined they had some sort of stake in. And now they don't have that. I mean,
So what is there hope for the unions? Or are those lost too?
I would say potentially in certain states. So I don't think there was ever quite as much hope for unions here in the South, just because they never got off as strong. So it's easier to imagine that a fledgling union could have been ripped apart. I think in places like the Great Lakes, where they've been longer established and where the demographics there aren't quite as, we'll say, diverse, it's harder to drive a wedge in the union on diversity things. There's a lot more, say, African Americans and Hispanics here, and so if wokesters want to, play race cars and drive divisions in the union membership, it's much easier for them to do that. But when almost like 85, 90% of the people in the Great Lakes are white folks, it's very difficult to drive that wedge, I think, compared to here in the South. And so they will have hope, I think. And I think that is great irony, which is that if diversity is supposed to be a strength, it's very telling that the activists always use it as a wedge to weaken things and make them fall apart. It should not be the case if diversity is a strength. I think diversity can be a strength, but it's just there are
Not
choices
their
we can make.
kind, not
No,
superficial diversity.
right, exactly. They're using diversity. Well, one thing I notice is that they use diversity in a weird way, which is like they will say diverse candidates, but they will not be saying like the roster of candidates is diverse. They will be saying the individual candidates are diverse. So if like a black person is diverse. So it almost it essentially implies that if you had 100% black employees at a company, you're they would say, well, it's 100% diverse.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't make any sense if they're all black. Right? You throw in one white person, it's more diverse by virtue of that. Diversity describes a set; it doesn't describe individuals. So they misuse it in that way. And then with inclusion, well, the people usually asking for inclusion, again, they'll say, "Look who's not in the room." And this is something I saw a lot in the Democratic Party when I was active in it. Is they're always the first to try and chase you out of the room. And I'm just saying, like the people who I've always thought were most inclusive, never ever talked about it. They just made you feel welcome. You did not feel like you spent your life walking on eggshells with them. It didn't feel like you were with a neurotic parent or girlfriend or something. That's what interacting with these wokesters feel like. Just think of your worst family member who always starts shit. That's what
They're
interacting with
Karen. They're
wokesters
the
is like.
HR Karens.
Yeah.
They treat them like a person, not as a token person from a
Yeah.
certain group. Yep.
Sean is right. I took over your show, Jeff.
Oh, that's fine though. This is great stuff. And Mark Robinson.
Yes.
Who is Mark
So
Robinson?
he's the Republican nominee for governor of North Carolina. We'll
Okay.
be having an outgoing governor this year. It's a Democrat named Roy Cooper. So
Oh,
interestingly,
I know Roy Cooper. Yeah.
yeah. So interestingly, he has won both times, even though Trump has won both times. So North Carolina is an interesting state in that regard. And he was attorney general prior to that. The current attorney general is now running to replace him, and he's also a Democrat. And he has also won both times, while Trump has won both times. And his name is Josh Stein. And so Mark Robinson is this very, we'll say, very belligerent Trumpian type of candidate in that he says whatever he wants. He doesn't care who he offends. And he's probably one of the most aggressive Republican personalities to run for governor of this state we've ever had. And there was
Oh boy.
this bombshell that went off last week where somebody found his an account tied to his email on like a porn discussion forum or a comment section or something, in which he described himself as a black Nazi and as a perv, and just
It was
apparently
like a
I didn't
kink
see everything.
fantasy.
Yeah, he had this
Race play, they call it.
fetish for trans race play porn, and so obviously it's something. I think the bombshell is that it could really undermine a lot of conservative um, positive sentiment for him because they see him as being kind of a degenerate
Well,
if they
I think the
believe it.
Yeah.
kink community needs to come to his rescue. What the right wing kink community, of which I'm a part, wherever they are, should come out
There
and frame
isn't
it as
one.
a personal freedom kink issue, stay out of his bedroom thing.
That's the trouble with online. Anything online is there forever.
Yep. Yeah, there's definitely things that 16-year-old Joe wrote that I think, oh God, I just hope that's never connected to like anything I currently use.
To see the light of day, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But when you're self-employed, it's a lot easier not to worry about that stuff. So yeah,
Where
as
are
far as Mark
the
Robinson,
where are the current What is woke? Where are the sanctuaries from wokeness? What are the institutions or places where it's still not able to gain as much of a foothold as all these other places?
Interestingly, I think the investing community is one where that hasn't happened.
Well,
I've
someone on here
noticed.
the other day was talking about one reason this was happening because the investors and capitalists at the top are requiring they want the corporations do this to signal to the investors that we're a cool company to invest in because we have all of these. So part of the wokeness is happening because I'm being told the investors themselves are using that as a marker of where to put their investments.
So
So it's like
they
chasing the
have
money.
they have pressured the SEC and exchanges to make certain ESG disclosures mandatory in their disclosure documents, so their annual reports, their quarterly reports, and other things of that nature. And currently, the teeth of that is usually if you don't disclose certain things. Like an example would be how many of your board members are um, racial or sexual minorities. You have to say why. So what a company could do is simply say we do not disclose this, and the reason is that we think it is not relevant or helpful or insightful to our shareholders. Um, I'm not aware of companies that do that, but they could technically do that. I think generally what most, um, especially major businesses do, is they look at the ESG section of financial reports as sort of a way to like do a positive commercial for themselves, and say, look, we're a great place to work, essentially.
Because we have
Um,
all these black people.
yeah, but in terms of when you're getting down to actual like um, talking with investors, meeting with other folks, sharing ideas, the woke stuff doesn't really get anywhere because what the bottom line is,
Take care
do
of
you
Chuck.
make money or not?
Yeah,
Um,
take Disney for example. Wokeness has almost destroyed Disney.
So
it's
do the
actually a good brand.
investors, is it because they have a better sense of human nature? Because what makes money is tied to human nature. And when they see all this woke stuff, they know better than them what's actually going to make money.
Well, it's not material to whether or not a business makes money. So if you just say we have a bunch of black people or something like that, that doesn't really make a big difference. Either way,
So,
what
and the
really matters,
investors can see that. So they see through all
yeah,
the.
yeah. So investors, they're talking about revenue, earnings, margins, levels of debt, and then even for a certain amount of debt on their balance sheet, how long they have to pay it off. What are the terms of that? Some terms are lighter than others. They're looking at what the policy is for reinvesting in the business, for buying back shares, for distributing dividends, right? And you can use these to just make strictly mathematical assumptions. If given all this,
Well,
a
math is
business
racist now. Like,
there's that, but like at the end of the day, like you don't need anyone's permission to put in a trade order for an investment you want to make. Say, okay, I'm going to buy this, and this is going to be, I'm going to see where this goes for 10 years. And where it goes for 10 years is going to be based on the financial performance of the business. And it has to make money. It's just as simple as that. If you want your investment to be worth 10 times what it is in a decade, which is sort of like a holy grail of investor accomplishments, it's going to be based purely on financial accomplishments. You might get lucky and there could be something like a GameStop short squeeze right after you buy something. But that's like a very weird historical anomaly. Otherwise, the people who make really upsized returns within a decade, like that, are folks who picked a good business. And it's not going to be based on how many white or black people they have. It's going to be based on the quality of the product they have, the strategic vision of management, their ability to be proactive rather than reactive. And I skip over the ESG stuff when I'm reading financial reports. It is never helpful. Again, it's just a commercial. There are ESG investors, but they're not really investors. What they are is they're activists who simply are trying to use their money to make companies do things that they think are
Yep.
socially just.
are they the
But
minority of investors? Like most investors are
of
still
course, because
sane and rational.
inherently, because voting power in a company is based on how many shares you own. And over time, the people who are financially successful and multiply and compound their wealth will be able to buy more shares of a company. If you're just doing stuff for ESG purposes, you're not growing your wealth, and your ability to accumulate shares of that company or other companies will diminish. And so, for a good example being during the Berkshire annual shareholder meeting a couple years ago. So I think it was the 2023 one. Warren Buffett was asked by one of the Berkshire shareholders, like, about, why don't they require the managers of the wholly owned subsidiaries of Berkshire? Some of what Buffett does is he just buys out the whole company and then it takes it off the market. So Geico is a good example. It used to be a stock. Buffett bought all the shares. It's not a stock anymore. It's just everything it does goes to Berkshire. And at that point, really, it is, how much money does it make? That Geico has been good for Berkshire has been purely a financial question and not one based on whatever the social trends are. And Buffett basically said, we're not going to waste our managers' time with any of this ESG stuff or diversity stuff because it does not matter. It's not going to affect what we do for our shareholders. Like, it's just a waste of time. There wasn't just about maybe racial or sexual minorities, but even asking ESG requirements of some of their maybe energy or utility companies, for environmental things. And he basically said, this stuff doesn't matter. Buffett's position has generally been if people want to do that, they need to do that through public policy. They need to make laws about what they want society to change, and then he'll go along with what the laws say. But not to do it through a company. And as an investor, you care about the financial risks and the financial returns, and you're looking for an asymmetric relationship between the risk and the reward in your favor. And so what I found in communities is that's what it is. It's because people are putting their money on the line when you're sharing ideas with folks, right? So whether they've been in it a long time or new, they probably have a decent sum of money, whether it's 5K, 50K, 500K, and they don't want to lose that. And ESG investing might make them feel good about themselves, but they're not gonna feel good about themselves if it goes to zero.
Yep.
Or if it just doesn't grow, and then their 5K, in terms of real purchasing power, is worth $500 by the time they retire. Right? You've got to beat even the average rate of inflation, 2%. You've got to keep these things in mind. I was active in a Discord community last year. I ended up leaving it for different reasons, but they were specifically not woke. They thought wokeness was stupid. And again, they don't care because it's about money being on the line. And nobody wants to go bankrupt, so that they can say, oh, at least I helped out this group or whatever, or at least I helped out this cause, right? Clearly, if it makes people go bankrupt, it's not worth doing.
Yeah. So do you still have faith in capitalism? Does it still work? Is it still going to work?
So there's ways it can be done. If we're talking about American capitalism,
yeah.
I don't think it looks particularly good. I think it enables a lot of bad things because essentially anything that you can monetize, unless there's a
Yeah, I've
public
seen that
policy to
here.
stop it, right? Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of why wokeness is dangerous is, well, we'll just give an example. A lot of people talk about Kamala Harris and see her being a threat as essentially being our first Marxist president. And I think realistically, to say she's a Marxist or a communist and those associated with her are Marxists or communists really doesn't make sense because she represents the extent of the corporate capture of the Democratic Party. And so it's a capitalist driven problem in a sense. We of course had points in our history where our capitalist system served us quite well and was overwhelmingly beneficial. So we have somehow let the negative parts of it become the dominant forces, where essentially both of our parties are bought out by them.
Did Citizens United have anything to do with that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can just watch the impact of how the Democratic Party became increasingly corporatist, and much more in common with the sort of Reagan-era Republican Party that it hated up to that point. I mean, you saw it in the primary campaign of Hillary Clinton, and just how much money she was able to summon. And essentially, Bernie Sanders' campaign was a resistance to her and an attempt by that faction of the Democratic Party to stop her and try and retain the sort of more New Deal FDR JFK style Democratic Party roots in the Democratic Party, but they failed. And I wouldn't say believing in climate change is woke, because this is something that significantly predates wokeness, right? Wokeness is a thing that started 2013, 2014, when people were complaining about um, like an illegal alien Halloween costume on, like, I think it
Right.
was the Yale University campus and shit like that. And it's just,
Christakis. So they hijack climate change like everything else.
well, it's just they're leftists, so they're gonna just take what was already a left issue and just magnify it with wokeness. But I mean, people were worried about global warming slash climate change in the aughts and the 90s and even in the 80s. Um, these are not new concerns. It's just I think maybe the level of um, fear about them is different. I think the fact that another thing too is the climate change data has panned out not to be quite what the grim estimates were 20, 30 years ago. Right, like, so, I mean, there's some parts that we thought would be underwater by now that just aren't. Um, and so I don't think it's necessarily woke, but I mean, it's like there are woke versions, right? Like, was the civil rights movement woke? No, but have people taken the concept of civil rights and made it woke today? Absolutely. Um, and I think it's unfortunate, though, is that because of this, something I run into a lot on the right is I would sometimes get accused of being woke just because I was minimally concerned about something just for my own purposes, right? And they hear it and they think, "Oh, you're one of those wokies," and it's like this feedback loop where they're making each other crazier. Um,
Maybe it, what about creating some brand like non-woke brand? If everything is wokeified, then we can de-wokify or keep an alternative version of like it was, the current version, and brand that somehow so people will know this is a non-woke version of whatever it is you're looking for. And then
well,
we can have the
I think
woke have their thing and we can have our own brand of
I think
non-woke
I
stuff.
tried to do that along with anyone else who was with that label with the IDW. I think that was essentially like
That kind of
what.
was not the non-woke because in 2020, a lot of us were finding each other through the IDW. That was the label that a lot of us were recognizing each other from.
Yeah, and I think the problem is that there's this temptation people have to go partisan, whether it's in the direction of wokeness or the other direction.
I
And
mean, I'm trying to stay centrist, but
yeah,
I lean right. But if I have to choose, like I don't want to be forced to choose because there are things on the left that I value that I think are good and important.
yeah, I
Just
think it's
not the
difficult.
current
It's just
iteration of the party.
there are aspects of being a partisan that are addictive, and I think people have a hard time resisting that temptation.
I don't think I'm naturally partisan. I think I'm more individualistic, so they come from everywhere. I can't cleanly divide my world into two sides, and so it's
Mhm.
hard for me to fall into that like tribalism because I'm part of too many tribes.
Right.
But if they're
In
gonna
fact,
wokeify all of my tribes, then I'm gonna go with the side that has the most of my tribes that are still woke free, and right now that's the right.
I was about to ask, are those antlers your tribal headdress?
Yes, yes.
That's how he gets his internet.
So going back to the Reddit thing and your friend with the trans wife and even the word transgenderism, was that him or was that the wife like saying, "Honey, I don't want," or do you know like I'm trying to figure out the vector of the activism.
I mean, he had the ability to do it. I think his trans wife, or I guess another way of putting it is his husband, um,
Oh
might
yeah,
have
right.
put him up to it. Just to make it clear, like when I say trans wife, like because I know it can like, well, is it a woman or so he's married to a man who thinks he's a woman. Um,
Was he gay before that or is he straight?
I would say he is gay because he married a man who just calls himself a woman, right? So that would be my take on it, right? Like that's some of the issue here is like
But did
we're
he like
completely.
was he attracted to guys or is he more
You
attracted
know,
to
I
her
didn't
because he's
ask.
straight and she's oh.
I didn't ask. I just knew that was something he mentioned at one
Because
point.
that's happening a lot now, like more and more, like straight guys that are dating trans women, but as regular women, as like a normal woman because they're straight.
I would say that if
A
it's,
trap, they
I'm
call it.
aware of like the whole girl cock
Yeah,
movement kind of thing.
the lady
Like,
dick.
yeah, like, and to me that's just gay, but like a different flavor of it than we've seen
I
before.
think the categories are collapsing. I keep saying we're all going to be trans at some point. It's like it's all going to be trans.
Yeah, snip snip.
Oh, oh no.
Hey, Derek, what's up?
Good Lord gave me my body parts. I'm keeping them.
Yeah, it's and also here's the thing: what gay or not, man, woman, man, man, woman, woman. When it's marriage, um, whether your spouse puts you up to it or not, that kind of doesn't matter anymore. When you marry someone, you agree to sort of be
That's true.
one with
Yeah.
them. So all your decisions are tied together. I was talking with a buddy of mine who had a falling out with um um a close friend of his, and he was recently married within like the last couple of years, and it caused the falling out with this is a friend he's known for like over a decade. So it's a very old friend, and so the falling out caused a huge rupture in their social circle, and it really distressed his wife. I was talking to him. I said, you know, one thing you may be realizing for the first time is that like when you have make a major decision, he made decisions that led to the falling out. We'll say,
Hmm.
this isn't just something that you make as a decision you make as you yourself, but you do it as you yourself and the husband of this woman, your wife, right? So
Yep.
it affects her, and you're not used to making those decisions because it's never really been that up to this point. And even after you've been married for about a year and a half, most decisions haven't been so consequential where like it would affect her negatively and you would notice. But this is like maybe the first example. They said, "Oh yeah, you are right." Um, and so I think when we go back to that Reddit mod, um, you know, let's say if he really takes the whole trans thing seriously, right? But he's not going to censor that word or put in an automatic filter to remove it. He isn't just doing that as himself; he's doing that as the husband of a trans person. So, which he chose to be. So, does he really is he really putting himself in a position in which he would stay away from those things? Perhaps not. That's sort of a tangent, really not hugely consequential to what you initially asked, but um, I think in terms of his specific mindset, it might have been important.
I'm starting to have more of an appreciation for moderation now that I'm having to do some of it myself.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I haven't yet politicized it. Like everything about it has been to keep within the terms of service and keep people from being personally attacked, etc. And so the temptation to block certain words that I might not want to have political conversations about has not yet crossed my mind or even entered me
Okay.
ever.
It is tough because the bigger the IDW subreddit got, and therefore the more difficulties that were occurring, the more conflicts that were occurring, right? Because when you go from when I was promoted to moderator, we had 3,000 subscribers, and when I left, we had over 100,000. We were in the top 2% of subreddits by size on the whole site, and um, and we were one of the few, we'll say, non-mainstream subreddits that hadn't been suspended or banned in the aftermath of all those subreddits that got shut down by the administrators once, like the Charlottesville shooting happened or George Floyd was killed. So we taken a lot of angry refugees from those communities, and so it's not just non-mainstream, but like emotionally charged refugee redditors essentially,
Hmm.
always wanting to start stuff. And the thing they could not realize, and this is something I I think is important to the value of free speech is that when they get angry and they start throwing punches and they derail a conversation, at least the way something like Reddit is structured is a perfectly decent post that's raising a good question that's well constructed by an OP. Any discussion could completely be torpedoed by somebody who wants to start a fight in the comments there, and those are become the top voted comments and where all the attention is. And people did not appreciate like that on some platforms, right? There's a sort of a finite resource to the speech, right? Like in terms of the way, like where the attention's going to be and whether or not a productive conversation emerges. And so we had to become more heavy-handed in banning people who were just really bad at de-escalating, at asking maybe probative questions, trying to maybe figure out where they stand first. What I found is that people on the left and the right always were trying to mind read each other and put words in each other's mouth or do whataboutisms. So a good example is I've talked a lot about, for example, issues I have with the left. Issues I have with the right is I actually do think they enable a lot of dishonesty and outright misinformation without realizing it.
I
Probably
think
the
the left
best.
does too. I just played those videos at the beginning of my show.
Yeah. But I think a good example of it where like this is so much of what they believe is based on this is that organization called Project Veritas. Almost
Oh, is that
everything
James
they've ever,
O'Keefe?
yeah, almost everything they've ever done, I don't think there's an exception actually, has been intentionally misleading and dishonest and distorting of the facts, and done in this way that they basically can't lose a lawsuit against them because they just avoid technically saying things. They figured that out.
It's kind of
And
trolling.
yeah, and some of it's trolling, but they pass off their trolling as real journalism, uncovering real things, which they don't do. And um, um, and so, hold on, I had a bigger point to this to the Reddit thing. What was I gonna say
The
about it?
finitude of speech on on the platform, like it's a limited resource.
Yeah, I'm trying to bridge what the connection was again. I lost my train of thought.
It'll come back.
Well,
Yeah, okay, we'll give it a moment.
You were talking about how the Republicans. Well, fuck. Never mind. I lost it too. I had it for a second. I got lost in the sauce.
Welcome to Outliers.
I remember now. I remember now. You actually helped trigger it for me. Thank you. So I would say, for example, because Project Veritas does this obviously dishonest stuff, I don't take them seriously anymore. I'm just going to ignore them now, right? And then I would be met with a response by a Republican. Oh yeah, what about CNN? And I'd be like, I'm not a CNN watcher or supporter. I mean, like obviously sometimes CNN clips come up in my feed and I'll or something and I'll check it out or whatever. Most of the time, if I do that, I roll my eyes at CNN. Like at no point have I asserted that because I don't like Project Veritas that I like CNN or MSNBC or these other news organizations. Like what about them does not address my concerns about the methods of Project Veritas and similar groups who may exist. And um, I kept running into stuff like that. And to me, it's just if you have to say, well, what about? That kind of just sort of says, yeah, we know this is bad, but those guys are bad too, so it's fair game.
Yeah,
And
exactly. It
like it's
happens on
very
both
simple.
sides, though.
It's very
It
simple what
happens
Project
both.
Veritas could do. I assume you're anonymous. You're familiar with like their methods.
Oh yes, he is.
Yeah. Damn, I
Okay,
didn't even
so
know that was my name right now. Thank you for.
okay,
Sorry, I logged in under a different browser. Sorry.
okay, Moose. Okay, well now I know who what your real name is, and that you're not just an anonymous. But right, so like essentially, Project Veritas is perhaps the laziest concept of investigative journalism that there could be, because they just go in, they talk to 100 assholes, they try to trick them into saying things, they find one who's
Gotcha.
drunk,
Yeah. Gotcha.
and then they will take like 5 minutes of a 50-minute conversation, stitch it together, things that are several minutes
Yeah.
apart to make it look like they said something completely different, and then they just play it on TV and they're like, hey, look what this guy said. It would be no different than if While filming The Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson edited it to make it look like the actors actually believe that they are Frodo and Aragorn and Gandalf, and made Elijah Wood and Ian McKellen and Viggo Mortensen look like a bunch of crazy people. How do you think the actors would have felt about that if Peter Jackson had done that instead? Right? That's what Project Veritas does. If I want to go and prove that there's animal abuse at some sort of farm or slaughterhouse, I go in there and then I film it actually happening. So all I could do for a decade-long career was just trick drunk assholes into saying, "Oh yeah, it would be cool if we could decapitate a bunch of animals." That's not how you expose animal abuse, right? But that would be the Project Veritas method. And somehow they have changed a significant amount of the political narrative based on those
We are
methods.
fucked. Is there anything we could do with Minecraft?
I mean,
Could we get some kind of political traction with that?
isn't it similar to like Alex Jones though? I mean, Alex Jones put out a lot of crazy shit, and some of it had truth in it, but still, it was still to like incite like people to do dumb shit, buy stupid
It's
products,
low
or feel a
info
certain way, and
people.
divide the people.
Yeah, it's
That's
crazy to
all
me
it
about
was.
Alex Jones is he's right one time, right? He throws enough stuff at the wall, one thing finally sticks, and they're like, "Oh, he's a genius," right? But me, if I'm wrong, if I'm slightly wrong about something, I get nitpicked to death, and so do most people, but not Alex Jones from his supporters.
So let me ask you this. Do you think, and hey everybody, salute to everybody.
Hey, Mike.
Let me ask you this. Do you think the media is the ultimate manipulation machine?
Oh, absolutely, because manipulation is part of the product. I mean, people want to be entertained when they watch the news. If you just do a dry reading of the facts, that's good for having an informed voting population, but people aren't watching CNN or Fox News or the alternative media sources like Alex Jones or Joe Rogan. I would not compare Joe Rogan to Alex Jones by any means, but um, they're not watching that. So like, oh, I want to be an accurate voter from voting day out. Voting based on accurate assumptions about the world. They're doing it because they think it's interesting. They're doing it because it hooked their attention, and so that's how you make money doing this. It's why movie trailers for the last 15 years have all been like something where it's like, toom, toom, like it seemed like it's going to be a really dramatic movie, and then you watch it and you're like, that was okay. It used to be
Well,
if you ever like watch a movie trailer from like the 80s or the 90s, they are way milder than the movie trailers are now. Every
yeah,
movie
it's
trailer makes it seem like
in
you're
your
about to watch
face.
the best movie ever. It's crazy.
I remember I lived in St. Louis. The One of the local television stations did a little test for about a week. They were put in a segment. A big part of their segment was good news, not bad news, but good news in the community, and the viewership tanked out when they when they went back to the regular style of news. Boom, the viewership went back up.
Why do you think we like watching movies about combat, people getting K-worded? Why do we love cops so much? Why do we love these towing shows, people get into fights? Media sells chaos and fear. That's what they sell. That's their selling point, chaos and fear. And the media used to be able to get like honest news, honest reporting years and years and years ago. It just seems like to me, in my opinion only, it seems like all they peddle, like Chuck is saying, is just the most negative crap they can find. And that's what people want to watch. People don't want to hear about good news anymore.
And
They want to hear about the,
they're not even vetting their stories nowadays.
yeah.
Joe Blow tells them the president is eating goose eggs.
Mm-hmm.
They run with the story before they actually investigate.
Yeah.
Yep.
In other words, I think the best way to explain it is if you don't fit their narrative, they as in media, marketing, the hires that be, the globalists, if you don't meet their particular set of goals where they want it to go, they'll lambast you. They'll make you an animal. They'll make you a racist. They'll make you a misogynist. They'll just make up all this stuff about you to discredit you. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I have I have a lot of respect for people like a Trump or like a Putin or something like that. Oh, that's a terrible person. But you know what? You can say whatever you want to say about them. They don't give a crap. They're going to keep doing what they're doing. You're not going to change them as a person. But I think that people are manipulated with all this pressure from the media, pressure from the masses, pressure from corporations, and they almost adhere and bow down to these people. That's why another one I respect is Elon Musk. I respect him very highly because he does what he does, and too bad. He doesn't bend under the corporate pressure.
Yeah. And, and I don't like every single thing Elon does, right? Like, so there have been cases where exactly the kind of things Project Veritas does, Elon might repost, right? Because he does so many things, his attention span is limited. But you can still look at him and say, that one error in judgment aside, he does way more things to enable people who have good intentions to be successful on platforms like X. And I'm not worried about I could be worried about if we have fully autonomous vehicles, who my manufacturer for that is and what their intentions might be. I'm not worried about that with Tesla because of who Elon Musk is.
Let me ask you this. What do you think is the biggest threat right now in the world, whether it be democracy or politics, or what do you think is the biggest thing that's eroding, like, kind of like society? I mean, I don't know if it's like a hate campaign or they're trying to divide us between all these different groups. But it seems like there's a lot of hate being preached instead of healing. It's more like
People are
hate.
scared, and I don't know why,
Yeah.
and disempowered.
Were you asking the group that?
Anybody.
Okay.
Yeah. Because the cool thing about this panel is that this is your first time here.
No, Joe
Okay.
is an old regular. He used to hang out a
Okay.
long time ago, and he just showed up today. We're catching up.
First time I've ever seen you.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about this panel is that everyone has different opinions, and we respect each other's opinions. But I love to hear from different sides of things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think if we're talking about the biggest problem in the world, it's as America has been sort of the global superpower. When America's so let's say norms of governance are breaking apart, that has a bigger impact on the entire globe, more so than any other country falling apart. And so
That's
it's not just
why I
going to be
said
bad
look it up.
internally
It
for
might be a
America,
different
with the
number or
300
something.
million people that live here, but then the
Oh.
other 7 billion across the world, with the power vacuums that start forming if America is no longer leading the way, can also be quite calamitous. I mean, just to give an example, like when we pulled out of Iraq, what happened almost immediately? ISIS came in, and then they did horrible, horrible things. Some of the worst things we've seen since World War II and the Nazis. And there are consequences to things like that. And people arguing over pronouns and not being able to hand over power peacefully here because of that could lead to just these terrible dictatorships taking over much of the world, whether it's something that happens locally or if it's something where China and Russia put their fingers in parts of the globe and oppress those people. Those things are much more likely. And then, of course, we're at greater risk if we're just weaker. So, maybe that's the main problem, or maybe it's a symptom of the bigger problems that are causing it. Many of which I think I kind of discussed at length already.
What was the main one? What again?
The weakening of American governance.
Yeah.
You mean
Because that's not.
geopolitically?
Yes, because it's not just bad for us domestically, but because America is the main leader of the world, setting the geopolitical stage. Disruption in America has a magnified effect on the rest of the world, right? China's
Which
internal
candidate do
division.
you think's going to be better for that? Because I honestly can't tell. I could make arguments either way.
So I'm not going to vote. I've given up on voting. And so that's if I feel like if I had some confidence on that, I might be a voter. But so it is tough to say. I think it is clearer why the Democrats would be bad for the world geopolitically. I don't think it's quite as clear it's conceivable that it could be bad under Trump. It's not quite as clear as why, I think, because Trump is so unpredictable.
Right. It's that chaos that's the danger.
Right. Whereas, like, it's almost a guarantee that things will get worse geopolitically if Harris gets elected.
So Trump is like a Hail Mary.
Yeah, he could be better. He could be worse. He could be about the same. I will say that there were some things that were observably better under him geopolitically. I think the sum of his first term could be that he was very bad on domestic issues. He was not a good administrator. He was in over his head. But geopolitically, where it really is just him being a deal maker with the rest of the world, he thrived there. He got so many deals that other presidents couldn't have dreamed to get. Like, he made Obama look like a toddler in deal making. And so he might be able to, pull some rabbits out of his hat with that. But it could be complicated by the fact that with these legal cases against him, we don't really know what our system under that pressure test looks like. So you imagine Trump gets convicted, he's sentenced to prison in a state. Trump just calls the Marines to pull him out of prison, and then if anyone tries to arrest him and bring him back to prison while he's touring the country, for doing president stuff, they can
That
say,
don't
"Hey, if
mean
you
they're
attack,"
gonna listen.
yeah, well, it's like he can say, "Well, if you try to arrest me, if you attack me, you're committing treason against the president of the United States," and then it's the federal government in war.
I think all cases would go on hold if he were to become president. They would have to wait till
Could be.
his term was done.
Could be. But it's one of those things where it's completely untested. We don't know how the dust settles on that, and that
I feel
kind
like
of chaos.
Kamala's untested too.
Yeah. So he's right. Mister's right. We're at uncharted waters. There's going to be things going to be acclimated if it happens the way we're thinking it's going to happen that have never been acclimated before. Like, you cannot. First of all, you can't put a former president in a jail cell. You can't, because of Secret Service protection. You can't put him in an actual traditional jail cell. So they would have to either build him something separate away from other prisoners, or he would be on house arrest. Because you can't take a former president and just put
White House arrest.
It was
Yeah.
the best White House
Can't
ever.
leave the White
Just for
House.
me. I'm president for my new White House.
Well, Mr. Account, excuse me, you're out of line.
What?
The president's talking right now. Thank you. It's good, Mr. Accord. It's going to be huge. We're going to have a
Just
party.
give him a little cell with the YouTube stream. Like, just let him stream. He could be our streaming president and stream
If
from
he
his cell.
gets time, let's just say, I don't think he will. If he gets time, it's going to be a specialized camp with him only. Remember Noriega? Not Noriega. Who was it? Escobar. Remember Escobar got sentenced to prison. He had his own resort on a hill.
He built his own prison in Colombia.
Just stay there. Don't bother the rest of us.
But Trump's not. Let's face, Trump's not going to get convicted. He's not going to go to jail. He's got money to buy himself out. So
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think he'll ever see a day in jail. I think he will, under all the protection acts. It's not going to happen.
The person that needs to go to jail is not Trump. It's the asshole we have in Ottawa here in Canada.
Mm-hmm. Are you talking about Trudeau?
Yeah.
When is y'all's elections? Like, when do y'all get to swap him out?
We don't have impeachment like you guys over here over in the States have. We have a vote of no confidence over here. So.
Oh.
Yeah, they're on it. Jeff, they're on a charter. It's completely different.
Were weird.
So the leader of the Conservative Party over here is calling for a vote of no confidence. He wants Trudeau out.
Not for free speech, Brian. Not for what I do on this YouTube channel. Like, she's putting my profession in jeopardy.
Yeah,
I already have to tiptoe as it is.
Canada is wild, bro. Like, people see Canadians, right? They see Canadians, they see Americans, and they think, oh, we're just alike. We're the same, government-wise. Canada's government.
From there.
Well, Jeff, that charter system, I would never want to live there.
I never thought we were alike. I always thought they were weird.
We don't have the same rights and freedoms you guys have over here, So, I mean, and during the Freedom Convoy, I know this is off topic, Trudeau and his Trudeau and his liberals freezed our bank accounts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Your account got froze?
Yeah, all of our accounts got froze until we.
What did you get a letter or something? Like, what did they tell you?
They nothing. We all went to our to the debit machine or the ATM machine and fucking froze accounts. Who's ever
And
heard
y'all
of
had
it?
to find out on your own. Like, they didn't send you a
No, they
letter.
didn't. No, they didn't. And they sent their jackbooted thugs to
That's
yeah.
dystopian.
Yeah, very 1982, man.
Okay,
There's
all
like
of you people talking about the government and danger and all that, y'all didn't mention Canada. I thought y'all were talking about the U.S.
and
That's where I
and
kept defending it.
Canadians have some of the strictest gun laws.
Yeah,
There are.
our government just not disbanded but discontinued the sale and purchase of hand pews
Of what?
of handguns. Our government,
Handguns.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
You
be.
can you can own a long rifle if you're a hunter, but it's a one-shot long rifle. They're not
Pistols.
going to have anything with a higher capacity. In Virginia, bro, we have open carry and concealed carry.
Yeah, you have
We
to
can
come
have-
to the U.S. for all that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Do that kind of gang banging.
Nodlos, you never knew that about Trudeau and our government? They freezed our bank accounts.
Were you receiving mass accounts of Bitcoin and money to fund the protest?
Yeah, people were donating to fund the protest, the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa. Yeah,
To your account? Is that one of the reasons?
not
Like,
to
would they have
my
shut it down otherwise?
not to my account, but I mean.
Oh, so not to your account. So what
Yeah.
Nodlos here is saying is
I
not
was
true in your case.
there, but I was there, but I was. I mean, I was. Yeah, I mean.
But nobody was putting Bitcoin in your account?
It was messed up, Jeff. It was messed up. The truckers were on the road and they froze their accounts and they had no money to put gas in their rigs, so they couldn't run the heat. People were like freezing. It was a big thing, man.
So Trudeau doesn't mind a protest as long as it's in his narrative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing I've noticed is that civil disobedience is great when the left does it, but like it's no different than stuff the leftists would do really without even necessarily destroying a bunch of people's like property. Like they didn't cross that line from what I know. They just drove around and honked their horns. And I mean, you go to you can barely go to a festival now without some activists just firing off their megaphone trying to deafen you.
That is why
Whatever
that is why come winter when I go back to college and get my journalism and podcasting, I'm going to be an independent journalist. I'm not going to be bought by this fucking government. I'm going to report the truth.
Are you going to do, like, you think you'll be YouTube?
I'm hoping to be YouTube, and I'm also hoping to do audits and quite a few other things, government stuff, stuff that we're talking about now, like.
Wow, you're going to school to learn how to do audits. That's
No, I'm going to school to learn how to be a journalist.
Yeah.
In podcasting, so.
I wonder how woke journalism is now.
Oh, fuck. You pay attention. CNN and all those other news medias that we grew up with are all bought and paid for by the federal government.
Like, I mean, like what they're going to teach you in school. Like
Over
if
here,
they're going to teach you woke stuff in journalism school.
Over here we have Rebel Media and Epoch Times.
Oh, okay.
Epoch Times is a really good paper. I get it. I actually get it.
I did an interview for them during a few years ago.
I get it. I get it.
Neurodivergence.
Yeah, it's a really good paper. It talks a lot about the stuff that they don't report. Yeah, man. Yeah. So what Abe is saying, auditing is pretty much dying out because they have retrained a lot of the officers to not engage, to not even engage them, and if they are passing laws now where if you're filming victims of violent crimes, the auditor can be arrested on the spot.
Which I don't agree with.
Now, also this is one thing I had a problem with. Now, I started on a channel who was a cop watcher, but I was there more for fun. And he would confront police, but he would never go into the police stations. If you confront an officer on the street and you ask them questions, you're interviewing them, and you're trying to get information, that's one thing. But the auditors that go into the police stations, the reason why you cannot film inside a police station, it's not because of the police officers. It's because they are victims of crimes in the station that don't need to be on film. For retribution of people saying, "Oh, you're going to go snitch?" You know what I'm trying to say? It's a safety issue. That's what it is.
But Trump's not going to go to jail. He's not going to serve a night in jail. Nope. He's got so much money he'll buy himself out, and I don't even think he'll get convicted. To be honest with you.
I think there are bigger things to worry about than Trump. Although I do agree he's something to worry about. It's
I mean, you guys got a guy
which
in the
fire
White,
do you put out worry about
I
first?
mean, you guys got a guy in the White House that can't even remember what to say at the podium when he's up there addressing the nation.
Yeah, but be careful because I don't have that much more confidence in Trump's faculties either. He's getting up there too. Like in 4 years, that could be Trump.
Yeah. Yeah, and but Trump is still sharp though. He's still pretty sharp.
He is.
I think if he was to win, which
You're
I hope
such
he
a
does win.
conspiracist, not lost.
Well, I
What
think
a shadowy world you live in.
I think I hope he does win this time around. Kind of pulls the economy up by its bootstraps, and then he's done. Then there's no more Trump. That'd be his 8 years. Then he's done, and then you can go from there. But I do think that Trump could possibly turn around the economy better.
Oh yeah.
I think Harris will continue the free train. Given
They're going to
AIDS,
make it harder
everyone-
to work for people to enter the workforce with the woke
Yeah.
stuff. They already had to stop their DEI training for the medics and 911 responders up here. It's
like
definitely
the
going to impact
Democrats.
work.
It's like the Democrats and the lefties. They're bleeding it. They're bleeding everything dry, and then at one point it's going to run out. And the dollar's going to be worth nothing, and the economy is going to crash. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Police stations are not public forums. You're not allowed to film inside of a police station. However, you can film across the street of a police station as long as you're not interfering with justice.
And that's the thing is that there are people in that waiting room when they'll come barging in, right, with like 6 people. Hey, everybody, blah, blah. They start hitting the buttons.
Yeah.
And there are people sitting in that lobby that are victims of crimes, and they shouldn't be on camera. That's
Right.
all. You have every right to film a police officer. So if you approach a police officer, you have every right to say name and badge number.
Yeah.
What precinct do you work at? That's they have to tell you. They have to. But if you have a civilian who is the victim of a crime or a witness of a crime, you shouldn't be able to record them and put it on the internet. That's all I'm trying to say, because it puts their lives in danger. You gentlemen agree.
Yeah, because most of those cops do undercover work and whatnot, and yeah.
Yeah. So Brian said, and I agree with Brian. Joe would confront cops on the street, but he wouldn't go to like
Moose, good luck. Let us know.
Yeah, Moose. And I agree with Plasma Void. I mean, I'm extremely proud of the trucker convoy a few years ago. I mean, that's when us Canadians rose up and said, enough's enough. Let's do something about it. Then everybody else followed suit.
I'm going to grab some coffee. We'll be right back, guys. I'm going to grab some coffee.
Moose is going on his interview.
I mean, I'm from a border city, Jeff, and we blocked off the Ambassador Bridge during the convoy.
That was one of your roles? That was where you were?
That's
How many people were with you?
Oh God, in my city alone, I can't think of the number, but there was a lot.
Like thousands?
Yeah, hundreds, yeah. But Ottawa, there was more. Ottawa, the number was really up.
Do y'all have the same like protest or free speech rights here for stuff like that as we do?
Our freedoms are being got with Trudeau in office. They're almost non-existent now.
That's what I'm worried about here. That's exactly what I'm worried about here.
I mean, red
To the
plasma.
point where I'm willing to take a risk on Trump. That's how worried about it I am. So I'm looking at comments. Hey, Tommy, by the way. Yes, the federal government is throwing a lot of money at the opioid crisis, and it seems to be increasing under the Democrats. At least Washington State here it does. But I don't know that that's a social priority. I think there are more things to worry about than giving billions to junkies. Like I want my free speech guaranteed before I look at anything else. And I don't trust them to be able to do that. So it is good. This is good. But it's not necessarily my social priority. I'd like to see more of it go to mental health and education about mental health. But the problem is, like, there's more substance use than mental health these days. Substance use has overtaken mental health.
I agree. I mean, I'm a recovering drug addict, alcoholic, and I seen the effects of addicts every day in my city. Close friends that had the world by the balls after recovery and went back out and used. I refuse to live in that hell again. I refuse.
How long has it been?
I got my recovery journey in 2002. I stayed clean for over 10 years. Then I slowly relapsed, and when I lost my mom in 2015, I relapsed. So right now and when the pandemic hit, there was no meetings. So again, I relapsed, but it's been a few years now for me. So one day at a time.
That's awesome.
You know, I mean, it's been a long journey. So.
Okay, I'm back.
Keep walking.
So I mean, and I don't agree with and apparently I guess some states in the U.S. have legalized fentanyl and crystal meth. Am I correct in assuming that?
That the states what?
So have legalized fentanyl and crystal meth. That's what
Well,
I heard.
Oregon experimented with decriminalizing
Yeah.
all drug, but they ended up having to reverse it. So they just recently reversed it and put it back to penalties.
I don't mind pot being legal. Right now, there's some people trying to get shrooms legal over here in Canada.
Yeah, Brian, read that last sentence of yours. As long as no politician tries to change that, and then go listen to what's coming out of Kamala and Tim Walz and Hillary Clinton's mouth lately this week. So it's a legitimate fit. Like, don't gaslight me about it not being a legitimate concern. I'm reacting to something that is actually happening that they are saying themselves. So it's. I don't think it's me being spurging out about anything. This is a legit thing.
I agree with you, Jeff. I've heard the remarks by Kamala and Governor Walz, and they're some of the most explicitly pro-censorship I've ever heard from presidential candidates. Like, I don't think it's ever been quite like this.
And you put it together with the guy from the EU that sent Elon. That, like, there's a trend now. There are people that want to come for speech.
Or Gavin Newsom, when Elon shared that, or he reposted that AI video of Kamala saying something, obviously that's not real, but is obviously parody. Like, if you know how to spot parody when you see it, she's saying absurd things that are just meant to make you laugh. Like, there's one part where she says, and often I will do my best Barack Obama impression. And she would not actually just say that, right? It's clearly just making fun of her as being like a bad speaker and stuff. Gavin Newsom, replied to that and says, we're going to pass a law in South Carolina to ban intentional misinformation about what candidates say like this. And Elon's like, it's obviously parody, and you know it. Like it's an attempt to just even clamp
Because
down
they're gonna
on
find
the
reasons.
parody.
The impulse is there first, and the justification comes after. And they're gonna find reasons to justify, but they're itching to censor no matter what. They're just looking for reasons. It's authoritarianism.
Right.
I mean, that's what it
Yeah,
looks
one
like.
thing I
Anytime
realized.
somebody could, maybe it's my American bias, but anytime somebody tries to control my speech other than me, like take the steering wheel from me on my speech, um, it feels like authoritarianism. It feels
Yeah,
like somebody trying to tell me what to do that does not have the authority to do so.
I definitely feel that. So like one thing I thought was important when I was moderating the IDW subreddit and the Discord was obviously a regular topic, even if it wasn't every day, it would always come up again eventually was the trans topic. You know, we talked about it a bit before. And one thing that users would try to make us do was enforce pronoun rules. And my policy on that was no, I'm not going to do that. Now, in some ways it's self-interesting. Like I don't refer to people by preferred pronouns because I don't think that's how pronouns work. It isn't how I speak.
It's not.
And so I'm certainly not going to like make people do things that I myself and I'm willing to do. But I never went so far as to say, like, okay, Caitlyn Jenner is a man. To refer to him as female is intentional lying, and therefore you all have to honestly reflect that he's male and change your speech accordingly. I never put that on anybody. I never tried to force people to say things or would ban them. If people wanted to say she, I allowed them to do that. The line I took was don't make people talk a certain way.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable line.
Well, you know, speaking on what Mr. Accord said, aka Joe, I was grocery shopping in my local grocery store this past summer, and I had mistakenly misgendered somebody, and they
No,
fucking
you didn't.
and they were bitching at me. They said, "I'm not a woman, I'm a man," and I'm like, oh, "I'm sorry, man. Fuck, sorry. I didn't know it." Like, we make mistakes. I mean, I can't tell.
That's not a mistake. You called them by what they look like. They're the one turning into a mistake.
Oh,
You
so
didn't
okay,
do anything wrong.
pretty much you're saying that they fucking bitched at me for no apparent
Yeah, they
reason.
tried to put you through they were trying to get power. They tried to put you through a struggle session.
Jeff is 100% right. I don't ever have to correct anyone that I'm a man. You know why? Because I'm a man and nobody makes that mistake, and it's really easy to tell. There are a very narrow number of people who exist where you look at them, you can't tell. Because most people you can just
Yeah,
tell.
like right now, I hate tiptoeing through people's fucking. Like we all have feelings, but I don't like being on edge. You know what I mean? When I go somewhere, and it's like fuck.
Who's
Anyways,
the guy a minute ago that was talking about relapsing?
I was.
I was gonna say there's no shame in falling down. Where the shame comes is if you don't pick yourself back up.
That's true. And that's what my sponsor said. He goes, Derek, you never relapsed. You had her slip up and you came back. That's the main.
Recovery is non-linear, we say.
Yep. Exactly.
But I still call it a relapse. When you have 10 or so years clean, my man, Tennessee, and you stay out there for a number of years. To me, that's a relapse. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. It sure is. I'll agree with you on that.
My stock portfolio would agree. Recovery is nonlinear.
I mean, for me, it's a daily struggle.
Yeah, that's how my stocks are too.
But Jeff, thank you for saying that it wasn't my mistake. They were the ones that made a big thing out of nothing.
That's how this thing get in. They try to guilt you for something, guilt you over being racist, guilt you over hurting someone because you called them exactly what they look like. Like it's their no. The people in my generation didn't play this game on people.
Right.
This is a new
Yeah.
game that being taught to this new generation, and they're learning that they can weaponize all this stuff and gain power.
And you
Well,
have to figure.
we're all Gen Xers. I mean, I don't remember our society when we were growing up, and even as a teenager, where society was like this. Do you guys remember that? I don't.
I mean, we had they had all this shit going back to like Andy Warhol, David Bowie, Rocky Horror, like late
Yeah,
'60s, early '70s.
I'm
But
a
it wasn't a big
millennial,
deal.
but
Like society wasn't.
Like I'm a millennial, but this stuff started my last year of college, so I was already grown up before any of this really started happening, and we started living in clown world.
What year was that?
That was 2013, 2014, the academic year of
So it's
that.
like the 2010s. It's more of a thing
Yeah.
of the 2010s.
So
When
it's
was
just, I mean, like
Gamergate?
2014. A lot of this stuff happened in 2014. That was the turning point.
Yep.
And that was before Trump.
Yep.
Yep.
Like that was
Trump,
during
I mean, Trump.
Obama.
I think a part of what may have been a influential in like sort of making Trump finally decide he wanted to run was seeing the wokeness. I would not be surprised if that was a big part of what factored into his decision.
That and the illegal aliens.
Right. There's a golf pro from the U.S. He's on YouTube. I forget his name. He's on YouTube with Kid Rock a lot. John Daly, I think his name is.
Oh, John Daly, yeah.
And the guy drinks a lot, and that's cool with me. But he says the one way to fix the border problem and the immigrants problem is to put alligators near the wall.
They tried that with that steel wire.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine alligators or crocodiles being dividing the borders?
Yeah, I don't think the U.S. is
Oh,
that barbaric yet.
That's just like if they wanted to shut down the drug problem. All they
That
would
is the
have to
bottom
do
line,
is
though.
declare a national emergency and use the army to stop all these drugs from coming into all these ports. If they declared a national emergency,
I
they could
agree,
do it.
Tennessee. I agree, but can you imagine if they stopped all the drugs coming across? Lawyers, DAs, police officers, judges, counselors would be all out of a job.
Well, then in a national emergency, some of that goes out the window.
Yeah. Alligators have a different idea of Mexican food. You're trying to be funny?
It's the entertainment channel.
I know. Hey, yeah, that's why I like your panel, Jeff, because it's serious and it's funny, and and you're not afraid of talking about hard hitting topics and issues.
I'm really not. I'm just as curious as everybody else.
Me too, and I can learn a lot from some of you.
I mean, I remember Elton John when Elton John first started out. Everybody knew that he was gay.
Yeah.
That was the glam rock was basically non-straight rock.
Yeah.
Except it was with mostly straight people, but they were speaking to the elements of rock that were other than the straight. They were trying to exploit the androgynous elements.
Boy George, who's the other one from Wham?
George Michael.
George Michael.
Yeah, George Michael. But we all knew it. But we enjoyed the music. We didn't care if they were gay or not gay.
I actually really got into Elton John the last couple of years.
His first couple of albums are fantastic. Those rock
there's some songs that are like, that are so like famous that I didn't even know they were Elton John songs. Like some songs that you just hear on the radio ever since you can remember, and no one ever tells you who sings it, and it's just one of the songs that's always out there. Right. I didn't realize how deep he goes.
Same with Paul Williams. He wrote a lot of songs for people, and to even think that he wrote the songs would be like, I think he even wrote Evergreen that was in
I thought that was
Stars Born.
Chris Christopherson. Let's see.
Was that? I thought that was
I
Paul
know he
Williams.
wrote Bobby McGee. Let's see.
Yeah.
You might be right. Don't go by me, definitely.
Oh, interesting thing with Elton John. I saw this clip recently where
Paul Williams.
This was from probably like 7 years ago now, 7 years ago, when Trump was having his feud with North Korea, and he referred to Kim Jong-un as Little Rocket Man. And a reporter was asking Elton John how he felt about that, because Trump borrowed the name from his song Rocket Man. And the reporter or the interviewer was trying to like set the question up so that Elton John could be like, I'm so mad he did that with my song.
Right.
And then Elton John was like, oh, it was brilliant what he did.
Well, Rocket Man referred to Kim Jong-un is short, so he's little. Rocket Man also came from the fact that he was trying to launch all these rockets that fell in the water. And Trump's not perfect. As a person, I despise. If he just keep his mouth shut, I'd be happy. I like his policies.
You know, he's not gonna do that.
I know.
He's the best free speech candidate there is. He's gonna run that mouth for
Oh,
4
that's a
years.
fact. And I think he's
Say
the
whatever the fuck
president
I want.
that has
I
held
think
the most press conferences.
I think just by
Talking.
virtue of how much he talks, Trump could say, "Speech has never been freer than under me," and it would be true.
Just give him a channel. That's all. He would love this. He could sit all day and just talk and talk and get all this narcissistic supply.
Yep.
Oh my God, Brian King! That movie changed my fucking life as a
What
kid,
movie?
and I wanted every little, all the action figure. I was more into that movie than Star Wars, and it opened up Greek mythology, and like there was no turning back from there.
What was the movie, Jeff?
Clash of the Titans, the old one.
Oh shit! Yeah.
I tried to watch it a few years ago. Oh my God, is it bad? How did I sit through it like 10 or 20 times at the theater?
What movie?
Clash of the Titans, the old one with the
Well, you
Kraken.
remember the old Kirk Douglas movie, Spartacus?
Yeah.
Oh, that was.
Yeah, man.
You go
Yeah.
back and watch it now, and it's like, oh,
We
it's
might watch
bad.
Romancing the Stone today.
Romancing the Bone. What?
The
That's a
Stone.
bad movie.
I think it was Michael Duggan and Kathleen Turner. It was
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
made like shortly after Raiders of the Lost Ark, and they did
Yeah,
Jewel of the
it
Nile.
was
as
a
sequel.
parody. Yeah, it was a parody.
It was Danny DeVito was in it too. Yeah, it's kind of a comedy adventure through the jungle.
Yeah, it's a parody of Indiana Jones.
Yeah, it's good though.
Well,
It's
you know
probably the
who,
only other movie like
you know who they
Indiana
wanted to be Indiana Jones originally, don't you? Who he wrote that
No.
for? Tom Selleck.
Oh wow, was he gonna have to lose the stash?
Well, he got offered that role as Indiana Jones, and then he got offered that TV series Magnum PI. So he went with Magnum PI.
Poor Indiana Jones. I
It's just
love the
interesting.
Harryhausen stuff. Yeah, I used like Jason the Argonauts and all that shit. Yes, and
Oh my
Clash of the Titans
God.
was like the culmination of that.
Jason and the Argonauts. Now there's a movie.
Oh my God, that sitting as a kid in that theater and watching those skeletons fight and their swords.
Yep,
Oh
yep.
my God, that my imagination had never been so stimulated. Because I used to have dinosaurs. I used to play with dinosaurs and make up all these plots and to see someone on TV like do that stuff, big screen with all this advanced technology. I didn't even try to watch it, Brian.
The movie that changed my life, if I could remember, and I've seen a lot of them, was Apocalypse Now.
Oh,
Do you remember the Mel Gibson movie, We Were Soldiers or They
Yeah.
Were Soldiers?
We Were
That was an
Soldiers.
awesome flick.
It was. So was Hamburger Hill. Remember that movie?
Is that about
Yeah.
the kids, the young kids?
Was Hamburger Hill about the Grenada invasion?
No, Hamburger Hill was about a group of a squad of 101st Airborne soldiers in Vietnam who were trying to take a hill. And they caught it
What do you
Hamburger
think?
Hill.
Yeah.
They
What do you
caught
guys
it-
think?
Oh, go ahead, Derek, real quick, and then Mike.
They caught it Hamburger Hill because a lot of the 101st Airborne soldiers were massacred going up that hill trying to take it from the North Vietnamese. Viet Cong.
Ooh, that's
What do you think the greatest military movie when it comes to combat, when it comes to realization of all time is?
I would have to say A Bridge Too Far.
What else? Everybody pick one.
When you say realization, do you mean like
The most realist, the most believable, the most
The one that
huge-
takes you there.
Yeah.
I would say this isn't a movie. So is a non-movie example fine?
A movie, like a captivating cinema, like a movie.
Heartbreak Ridge was one about
Well, let it
Grenada.
whatever you want. Like it's just a prompt,
Um,
so whatever you do with it.
Well, I mean, I can think of a TV show.
Yeah, give us that.
I think The Last Kingdom does that with its combat sequences pretty well. Because it's not a bunch of
Never
like
heard of
sword
it.
ballet. It's a Netflix show about
Vikings.
the kingdom of Wessex under Alfred the Great facing the Viking invasion of England. And the battles in that show more believable type of this way fighting occurred. Really, that you almost never see that shows the typical like sword and shield warfare of the ancient and medieval periods. That they usually show more like heroic individual combat, and the Last Kingdom is much more unit based, line based in the way it does things, and
I gotta
kind
watch
of
it.
it's kind of it's just it's not very elegant stuff, but it's how the actual combat would have looked.
Yeah.
I gotta watch that movie, Joe.
I
It's really good.
remember watching an old horror flick, for lack of a better word to call it. The name of the movie was The Toolbox Murders.
Yep.
And it wasn't until the end of the movie that they disclosed it was a true story. And I was
Yep.
like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It was
I mean,
hideous.
looking at like when you research and you talk to or you see interviews with like former combat soldiers, the consensus usually is Saving Private Ryan was one of the most realistic World War II movies ever made. Like the fighting and the grit and the loss of life and the chaos. I
That
think that
was
was
Tom Hanks. Who's in that?
Tom Hanks, Matt
Tom
Damon,
Hanks.
Vin
I don't think
Diesel.
I don't watch a lot of military movies. I don't think I've seen any of
Yeah.
these.
They're the opening scene is like 8 or 9 minutes of carnage where they're storming Omaha Beach and they're just getting mowed down by the Germans and they finally break through. But
Right.
it is
Iwo Jima with John Wayne was another one that was showed some hardcore.
I've been
Yeah.
liking that World War II footage that they just colorized and released. That's like more fascinating to me than anything.
we've given United States has given so many young lives of men and women. And I wish we were recognized more around the world as really helping so many countries be liberated. We gave so much blood,
Yeah,
for
I ignored detractors of the U.S.
Yeah. I mean, I
There's
did.
no other country. Like I'm not going to trade it for any other country anyway. So
That's why I did 14 years. There ain't no better place in the world than here.
Now I know that in World War II, I know that Russia had more losses because they were not as trained as us. But we lost so many people in World War II. So many young men and women died.
Oh
Just
yes, it was
yeah,
hundreds of thousands, wasn't it?
yeah, terrible.
World War. I mean, they were
Never
marching
forget.
through snow without boots. We
Never
couldn't even
forget what.
supply them boots.
And these young people are getting mad because they only have 2 hours of Xbox time. And these young men and women are out there freezing to death in the. It's the generation gap is unbelievable. It
Yeah,
really
my
is.
dad lied about his age to get into World War II, and he served World War II and he served in Korea,
Yeah.
and he
My uncle
told
lied.
some stories.
My uncle lied. He got into Chucky got into the Navy at 16, and he had to be
Yep.
17 or older. And he lied, but he got
My
in.
dad my
Yeah.
dad was 15 when he lied and got into the Army Air. Well, it was the Army Air Corps then. There was no such thing as the Air Force when he
Yeah.
joined.
And Chuck, 26 years later, from an E1 to a CMC, Command Master Chief, God bless him. 26 years of service, man. You gotta love it.
Well, over here in Canada, our enlistment is low. Nobody here wants to enlist in the military now. Over here.
That's a
Yeah.
shame.
In World War II, Canada would take foreign troops to become Canadian Army. It would take foreign troops.
Just like the French did.
Yeah.
That's how you ended up with the Foreign Legion.
And over here in Canada, we won every war we ever been in. We're starting with the War of 1812.
Yeah, fuck you guys.
You heard what? Did you guys know what Churchill said? Churchill had a famous quote. Winston Churchill said, "If I had Canadian troops, British officers, and American technology, I can take over the world." And that's a true.
Nope. No, it wasn't.
That's what it said.
Our
That's what it said.
our leaders were better than the.
Okay, well,
Sorry,
there is a quote. There is a quote that says if
we
you
had
had
much better generals.
Our
British
leaders were
officers, Canadian
better
troops,
than
and American
their
technology, you'd take over the
leaders.
world.
Our leaders were better.
Yeah, because
Well, they were. That's why they were in charge.
the Canadian troops in World War II were the most disciplined troops there were, and the British officers were the most squared away officers there were. And America had all the technology, had all those resources.
My dad said the Aussies were the hardest to get along with.
All right, it's time for
Because
me to go kill this interview. I'll see you guys after I'm done. Peace.
All right, brother. All right,
peace
man.
out.
Take care.
Jeremy, Jeremy, thank you. Yeah, we did kick butt in World War I and World War II. Just that history, nobody knows about my country's. I mean, we've lost. Yeah.
Canada was a big participant in the Gulf Wars too.
Yes, we were. You just don't. People just don't hear about my country's involvement in every war and the butt kicking we did.
So y'all are just as evil as the U.S.
You know what? Jeff, I wasn't going to say this, but since you brought it up, in World War One, when both sides caught a Christmas truce, that's when there was some honor in war. Anyways, my country's soldiers in World War One, instead of passing the Germans gifts, we lobbed hand grenades as Christmas gifts.
Yep. I think that's how the Geneva Convention came about, is because of how Canada was.
Because of the Canadians? Wow. And y'all burned down our White House. Yet this polite, inoffensive act is
I
not
get
going
it
to work
now.
anymore.
This is why Canadians say sorry all the time, because they know they caused the Geneva Convention.
Because they're actually violent thugs.
Yeah,
Yes,
we are a big part of the Geneva Convention being what it is today because of World War One.
Yeah. They say they as in American troops in a lot of memoirs say the best troops to serve with are Canadians and the Scottish. They were tough, like super, super tough. So, I was
the Canadians.
The Canadians and the
apparently
Scottish.
they are.
The Scottish, yeah, the Scottish. They were real tough, really tough.
The Scottish people we had assigned to us, all they did was play bagpipes.
They had their bagpipes with them?
We had
That's
a
pretty cool.
bagpipe company assigned to us. But it was great. It was great. The bagpipes. Yeah.
Oh.
Awesome.
You know what? I don't think it's because we've done war crimes in war because we say sorry. I think it's just embedded in us. But anyways, whatever. I'll go with that. I'm sorry.
Now the worst enemy I think we ever encountered was the Japanese. As far as
they were the cruelest. They were the cruelest to POW.
That's what I mean.
Right.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. They would experiment. You ever see Unit 731, Chuck? The movie?
Yep.
Disgusting. Disgusting what the Japanese did to mainly Russian and Chinese POWs. They did it to some Americans, but they did it to limited amounts. But they would torture the Chinese and the Russian POWs.
Yeah, and the Japanese soldiers during World War II did not believe in the Geneva Convention. They would capture American, Canadian, British soldiers, have them tied up, and behead them with their katanas.
Yeah.
We started going ham. There's a series. It's on Netflix. It's on Tubi. I believe it's originally on HBO, but it's called The Pacific, and it's also a prelude to Band of Brothers. You guys probably heard Band of Brothers, the series, and it's called The Pacific, and that's when we were fighting the Japanese in the Guadalcanal and Iwo Jima and stuff like that. And at one point, we found out about a lot of their inhumanities to POWs, so we just started beating the piss out of them. Like we started becoming like them and just shooting them and all kinds of stuff. But World War I was horrendous. If you look at the trench warfare, if you guys ever looked at trench warfare,
that's where mustard gas came from. Well,
but living in a muddy hole, and you get trench foot where the skin is coming off the bottom of your foot, you can't even walk. Very less run into enemy fire. It's World War I but World War II was, more colorized, more covered. But these wars, man, and World War III, if and when it happens, is going to be basically just air warfare, dropping bombs, dropping munitions, things like that.
Do you remember
Mike, even though I kind of somewhat agree with you, I think it'll just be an intelligence warfare. Our enemies will knock down our kids.
I think they're going to blow up all our toasters and microwaves, and that'll be the end of us.
I think they're going to knock out the grid and get us blind and deaf. That's what I think they're going to do.
So, Jeff, you know a lot about the EMP. You know a lot about EMP attacks, Jeff. Have you ever looked into EMPs?
Mm-hmm.
Electronic, those.
Magnetic pulse.
Isn't that what they said? Wasn't Congress being bombarded with some waves or something under Trump that they thought was Russian, or they would go overseas? Like there was something like in the last.
It was
the
embassy people. Yeah, the embassy people.
Yeah, yeah.
In Havana, Cuba.
Yeah.
They were beaming signal over, causing physical distortion in people.
That is why, even though I love being a Canadian, I was born and raised here, and I wore the uniform when I was in the Army Reserves. I'm kind of afraid of being here because if Russia invaded my country, they would take the back door from Alaska into my country.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen with the United States on watch.
Well, did you not hear, Chuck, if I may call you Chuck?
Chuck's fine.
That NATO kicked my country out of NATO because Trudeau is thinking of disbanding the military here.
What?
Yeah,
Are you serious?
NATO wants no part of my country.
I'm gonna have to look that one up.
Yeah, we're done. We're out of NATO. They kicked us out. They kicked our asses out.
All right, Jeff, fact check that for me.
I feel like I would have heard that, but I'll look it up.
Yeah, that one there.
That's what my friend told me yesterday. Because
misinformation. Let's see.
Yeah, I think it's Turkey. I know they don't want in NATO, but they have to.
Well, they're thinking of kicking us out. That's what.
Who said this?
My friend called me yesterday, and he told me that NATO is thinking of kicking my country out of NATO.
Where did he get it from? I don't see anything about it.
Never happened because the U.S. could veto it in a heartbeat.
That just seems weird that somebody would. That's the age. Okay, investigative journalism. This is good practice.
Yeah.
Learning to vet and fact check it.
Like Snopes.
And kind of think critically of what makes sense.
But I don't know, man. My Trudeau over here has really fucked up my country, to be honest with you.
You know that movie Heartbreak Ridge?
Yeah.
With Clint Eastwood, where they invaded Grenada and had to use the credit card.
Hey, Austin, this is the kind of stuff I don't want on here.
To call in airstrikes. That's a true story, by the way, because I was involved in that operation.
Which one?
Heartbreak Ridge, the one with Clint Eastwood, where they had to use a credit card to call in airstrikes on a telephone.
That was your people?
No, that was a great movie. That was a Marine Corps recon highway. Yeah, they did
101st Airborne.
Well, the Heartbreak Ridge, the movie, was Marines. It's recon. That was the Marines.
Yeah, but we were providing the communications. The 101st was, and it didn't work.
Right. It was a good movie. Clint Eastwood is a gunnery sergeant in that movie, and they go to Grenada. And they were fighting the Cubans. The Cubans actually were supporting Grenada. People don't realize the Cuban army supports a lot of.
When we getting off the plane, they were shooting at us.
Yeah.
In Grenada, we wasn't expecting that to be shot at us trying to get off the plane.
Yeah. Chuck, do you know about the Cubans? Chuck, do you know about the Cubans in Angola when they tried to, the mercenaries tried to take over Angola? They had the Cuban troops there.
Yep.
Cuba has a very small army, but they're very highly trained. Very highly trained troops.
They're the Colombian type, the jungle warfare variety.
Yeah.
Very good. Just like Chuck, who do you think the the best jungle soldier is from what country? Like, I know who I think is one of the best jungle fighters. Who do you think was the best jungle fighters?
Well, I don't know if I'd call it best, but I would say Vietnam.
Yep, I was gonna say that, Chuck. Yep.
You know, so you would say the Americans or the Vietnamese were better in jungle warfare?
The Vietnamese, apparently.
Gotcha.
Because Mike, if you think about it, the French were in Vietnam, in Vietnam, Indochina before the Americans in my country got involved.
In the 50s, yeah.
So, and the French backed out because they realized, holy shit, this is an unwinnable war. We can't win this war. And then the Americans in my country, which a lot of Americans don't believe that Canada was also involved in Vietnam.
Yeah.
So when we entered the war, unofficially, we realized, fuck, what are we even doing here? So how can you fight an enemy you can't see in the jungle and the tunnels they were using?
I love military history. Yep. Do you guys ever research the Gurkhas, the Royal Gurkhas?
A little bit.
The Gurkhas. The Gurkhas. They're British. They're Tibetan, but they're British, and they're supposedly some of the best jungle fighters there are. The Gurkhas. They have the kukris, the big, long, curved knife.
Yeah.
The Royal Gurkhas.
Well, and just to be honest, let's take Afghanistan. Look how big of a problem that turned out to be. Trying to fight the locals.
Yeah.
The Taliban in all those tunnels and caves and what have you.
And if you guys like talking about this, you would think the Russians would learn a little something from us and you guys during Vietnam when they invaded Afghanistan.
They got their asses handed to them.
It's unconventional warfare. So the problem is that you're fighting a guerrilla force and you're trying to use superior military tactics.
Conventional. Yep.
So it's basically, Chuck, what you're alluding is that sometimes you got to go old school and get your bow and arrow out and put your war paint on and crawl through the mud. That's how you can defeat a guerrilla force. You can't defeat a guerrilla force by walking in a straight line. That's why the British would get slaughtered by the militias and the militias and the American Indians. They would just destroy the British because the British fought like civilly in a line, with their nice shiny uniforms, and they're like, "Yo, we're crawling through the mud, popping you left and right." That's real warfare, and I think the Vietnamese were the kings of like jungle warfare. They did whatever it took to win.
And they won.
They did.
Brian King, I'm going to sub to your channel, my man, because I collect knives and swords.
Russian tank.
I'm going to drop your channel, Brian. Also, I want to promote Benjamin Boyce in less than an hour, in about 45 minutes, is going to be talking with King Crocoduct about the case for Israel, and I've been wanting to watch. This is like my dream pairing. I might even in the stream to watch it in Discord.
Who is King Crocoduct?
He's a physicist that does YouTube videos on science, and he does some on social justice in science and debunking wokeness in science, and he's also Jewish, and he does a lot of work on.
They're going to talk about the Israeli conflict?
Yeah, how Jewish identity and Israeli legitimacy are inherently linked. It's the case for Israel.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff, can you drop Brian's link in the chat? So
Absolutely, I'm
thank you.
Pulling it up right now.
Thank you, my man.
Yeah, check out Brian's channel, everybody.
See, Jeff, me and Mike can be friends. It's not that
hard.
Well,
I never thought y'all could. It never seemed like Mike had anything against you.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, I have a lot of respect for Chuck. Chuck is former military. He's older. He's a little bit older than me, so I have respect for him.
a little
bit older than me.
Hell, I was here when the lights came on.
Yeah. Listen, I can never be mad at anyone who served, especially 13 years. I can't ever be mad at that person. That person gave a large portion of their life to protect me and my family. So salute to you, man.
All right, here you go. Here's Brian's channel. Give him a watch, like, subscribe.
And the funny part, Mike, is a lot of what I learned in the military I still use today in my everyday life.
And put in the back for you, Derek.
Awesome.
Let me put this for Jeremy. Jeremy was asking about a tank movie set in Afghanistan, a Russian tank, and it's called The Beast. The Beast is what the movie's called, and it's basically Russians in Afghanistan doing tank battles. Jeremy, if you see it, it's called The Beast. I think it came out in like 88 or something, 88, 89. Yeah. But it's a really crazy. People will research different wars, but when you look at the Russian incursion in Afghanistan, those Afghanis, they were tough as nails, man.
You know where they got their weapons from, though, don't you, Mike?
Well, they got them from, at the time, us. Yeah, us, of course. And then I think they started getting stuff from China too, right? Later on, they were getting like Chinese AKs, stuff like that. But
yeah, but a lot of their weaponry came from us, so they could fight the Russians.
Yeah. May have respect for blade fighting.
We're smart. We let other people fight the Russians for us.
Let's see. There's an old quote from a general. It says, "You don't fight two superpowers at once. You let them fight each other, and then you collect the spoils." In other words, you
they
watch
do
them
that on
fight.
Survivor all the time. In Big
Exactly.
Brother, that maneuver.
Yeah, man. Good stuff. What was I going to say? So you have to kind of cap it up a little bit. You have all of this political stuff going on. You have all the rhetoric with Trump and Biden. Now, do you see Biden might leave office early? Do you see that?
No, there's no reason to.
He's already left office. He's already left.
They're saying
Biden left office.
I've seen the story. Yeah, I've seen the story, Mike.
It seemed like I would have heard about that too.
I think they made a deal with him. I think they said, you step down voluntarily and you get to finish your term. If you don't, we'll 25th Amendment you and then make Kamala the candidate anyway.
Well, the story Mike's talking about is they want him to step down completely.
Completely. All at November 5th, right, Chuck? I think it's November 5th. They want him to just completely.
Do you have a source for this? Where's this coming from? I can't find it.
I just saw it today.
What day is election day?
It would be a couple weeks.
Is it the second?
Let's see. Biden stepping down. Let me see. Let me look at this real quick.
November 5th.
Yeah. November 5th, right? They're saying that he's going to step off on November 5th.
That's kind of that's a misnomer
because
whoever wins the election November 5th is going to succeed him anyway.
But only after January when they get sworn in.
Yeah, January 21st.
If Biden did that, then Harris, even if Trump won, Harris would get to be the first woman president by technicality.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then she would have to. So in other words, check this out, guys. If a president gives up his office, if he relinquishes his office, the vice president becomes the president, right? But the president that gave it up cannot be the vice. So she'd have to pick the vice president. I read this whole thing earlier.
Right. But that's how they did when Nixon stepped down. Ford chose who he wanted to be his vice president.
I believe Congress has to affirm it, but
yes,
ideally it would you just defer to what the president wants, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. So she would pick somebody just to fill in for then, and then she would, run. Yeah.
Well, did you guys know that the Speaker of the House of Representatives does not have to be a member of the House of Representatives?
Yes. It does not say that in the Constitution. It says the House shall elect their Speaker, and it says no requirements for who that Speaker could be. I could be the Speaker right now.
Exactly.
A phone call, and they'd be like, you know what, Joe, we heard about you, and we could make a great speaker.
Because at one time, they were going to make Trump the Speaker of the House.
Yes. Yes. And the craziest thing is that people don't realize the Speaker of the House is the third in line for the presidency.
Yep.
The third in line. That's the craziest shit ever. So you can have a president. Check this out, guys. You can have a president that was never elected. That's crazy.
We've had presidents that weren't elected.
But like Ford
Gerald
was elected
Ford.
to be vice president. He was elected to be vice president.
Well, he was the vice. So Chuck, he was the vice president. So he assumed.
But have we ever had a Speaker of the House succeed to the presidency?
Never. We've never had a Speaker of the House become the president. But it can happen. So if something was, let's just say, God forbid, something happened to the president and the vice president.
I'm
The
surprised
next
no one's
person-
tried this before. Is that because Congress is not dumb enough to let
I don't
someone
know,
that's not a
man.
congressperson be speaker?
I don't know.
At least we have that basic political intelligence.
Like forgetting
Yeah.
who would be in succession to the presidency, when you look at the House and who they're going to pick as the speaker, it's always going to be based on how you can trade favors, and that means other
It's the
members of the House.
succession.
So the incentive system doesn't easily allow for an exterior, someone from
Somebody with
outside
no
to
power.
become speaker. It would take
Yeah.
an extraordinary circumstance where there's this unique individual that is more attractive for whatever reason than current members of the House with their seniority and the goodwill they built up.
It's freaky, dude.
The favors to call in that they build up.
I got the secession in front of me, and it's wild. It's president, vice president, speaker of the House. Then it's the president of the Senate, then the secretary of state, then treasury, defense, attorney general. It goes all the way to 18 different people. So
We only get 18 shots, and
Yeah,
if they
18
can
So
get
if the
past
president and the vice
18,
president are
they
ever on the same
get the
plane and
country.
it crashes, then the speaker
So if you
would
go
just become president.
to USA.org, USA.gov, it shows you the progression of who's in line for the presidency. But can you imagine, like, all this crazy stuff happens, and you have the Secretary of Transportation being the president? Like, you have like, what the hell? Like, but yeah, Speaker of the House is a very, very important position. It's right under the Vice President. But yeah, what are you gonna do? And people.
Uh-oh.
What was
Did
here?
he
I am
cut
talking
out or
about the
did I
safe
cut out?
assumption.
Did
I don't
he
hear
freeze
him.
up?
I don't hear him.
Okay, he must have cut out.
Yeah. You highlighted here I am. He was saying only safe assumption, since you are happy to live by assumption, is that they aren't telling you what's going on. What was that in reference to?
No clue.
Was it what the deal was
It
with
looks like
Biden?
he's coming in late, so that could be a reference to anything. Here, what are you talking
Yeah.
about?
What's that?
Okay, you had froze up for a second.
Me? Did I?
Yeah.
Oh.
We lost probably a good 30 seconds.
Oh, did you hear me when I said about the vice president doesn't live at the White House? People have this misconception that the vice president's like in the White House with the president. They live at the observatory. It's like a Navy observatory.
Oh, I see. I wasn't here. I was trying to say I think he's still president. It's going to continue to be president until they hand it over
Okay.
to the successor.
Here I am. To live by assumption, we never said that we make consequential decisions in our lives based on the speculation we make while in a discussion stream. I would say, just pay attention to that.
Yeah. And these are the greatest streams.
Oh,
Because
wow. Thank you, Austin. Hang on. Let's give Austin a little bit of fanfare.
All right.
Oh.
Salute.
Thank you
Salute.
so much.
Woo! Monetization.
Woo! My first $5 today. This is donation funded, so every little bit of this helps. It keeps me here doing this, and that's all I'm going for right now. So thank you. You're helping this to continue.
That's it. Keep it going. Show some love. Show some love. But
Yeah, they do here. I try to call it out on
this.
this channel all the time. It's a thankless task.
It is. You're
Yeah,
a
there's
glutton
this
for
YouTuber I like. I gave him a $50 tip on his latest video because I think it's probably one of the best YouTube channels I've seen in terms of what he does.
Who?
It's a guy named Technicals, very unrelated to a lot of this stuff. He mostly talks about stuff in the gaming community, but he does investigative journalism about controversies in there. And what he has managed to do with some success is, in the gaming community, as you know, people who have a professional, like a career in the gaming community, are either content creators or professional competitors. And so when a controversy emerges, they can be canceled, essentially. It's very easy to just pick them off. They don't have, you need to fire with cause. There's no kinds of like legal barriers that can protect them. They're just done. And so, they lose sponsors, they get banned from tournaments. What really kicked him off was he did this investigative documentary about one of the most successful Super Smash Brothers players
Mhm.
of all time, who had allegations against him that he had engaged in some kind of like sexual misconduct with a minor. There were a lot of allegations coming out at once, most of which had some truth to them. But there was this one that seemed a bit odd against this guy. It was a player named Zero. And what Technicals did is about a year after the allegations came out, he got canceled. Is he did this investigation that showed how made up the claims against him were and embellished, and how basically it was a bunch of bullshit. And Zero was, I mean, he's like a nerdy guy, and he grew up getting bullied a lot, and was always afraid to stand up for himself. And so the reason why he didn't when it happened is because he just didn't believe that he could, because he never knew anything else. And basically, cancel culture like takes advantage of people like that.
Yeah, so that's what self-empowerment. Like there's
Yeah.
something like you have
And
to
so
be at a
he-
certain level of disempowerment for that to work.
So he exposes dishonesty and corruption in the gaming community, because a lot of the stuff is again done for money. People looking out for what makes them money, and he actually helped to restore his reputation to a significant degree. The Player Zero, it never fully come back, because some of it is just that when people who cancel make a mistake, they will never own up to their mistake, because that's a hell of a thing to own up to, right? Like, oh, I helped ruin this person's life, and I was completely wrong. No one wants to be the person to do that. They're just going to double down, some of them. But the guy went from being like a ghost, right? He's just gone, to he was actually able to bounce back and get his own YouTube channel, doing stuff again, and at least have some belief that it wasn't the end, and that some people people can come around to be shown the truth and believe in him. So I left him a tip. That's like one of the only exceptions I've given a YouTuber a tip, because I just thought it was so important that he's done that with his work, even if
Well,
it's just about
speaking
gaming.
of, this is for Vinny. Thank you, Vinny. This is your fanfare. I appreciate you as well so much.
Woo!
The life of a YouTube hustler.
That's it.
That's right.
Hustler.
Now, on that
Super
note,
is a troll. I don't know who he is. He's a sock account, but I enjoy the bit.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
I went on a rant the other day against Mary Poppins. I can't stand her. She was like the Karen. That's a horror movie to me. It's like an invasion of the Karen, and so he's doing this bit about Mary Poppins as activist, save the umbrellas.
Yeah, it's the most annoying, constant freaking comment. Umbrella time! Charge my umbrella! Umbrella!
Oh,
Like,
they might be, Bex. I know they're affiliated with that Saul guy.
Yeah, it's like, why don't you just come on panel and tell us about umbrellas? Just come on up and talk about umbrellas. We can have
Yes, this is where this is where I disagree. The first part, yes. The second part, no. That's the disempowerment. We cannot take responsibility for what's going. Yes, you can. It is incumbent on you to take responsibility. Quit offloading your responsibility to others. I know that's very tempting. There's a pleasure in that, but it is our responsibility to be accurately informed and not wait for the people to spoon feed us correct information. We can take an active role in that. We can do it through dialogue, research, thinking intelligently.
Yeah.
The great thing,
Take
Jeff,
care,
is that
Brian.
this is an open panel, and if somebody wants to participate, they can come up and they can talk instead of hiding behind a fake avatar and fly away on an umbrella. But come up and talk.
I'm less concerned about the umbrella thing, but I do think that I didn't know this crocoduck thing was happening, and I really want to see it. So I do think I'm going to wind down over the next half hour or so, and then probably go do that in the Discord, and then come back later this evening.
Right on, man. It's all good. Oh, it was actually a really cool panel.
I loved it. I'm so glad Joe showed up. It was great to catch up and see you.
What a great flow. It was a good flow, And that thing is, the biggest thing, I didn't want to get too much into it, but it's like, I noticed that there are nights or days, whenever you come on, that we have a really good, even flow. And then you have one or two people that will come on and they'll just try to.
And you know what? That's my job. That's me learning how to manage the show better, and I think I'm getting better at that.
Jeff, I think you do a great job thus far, my man.
And I'm serious about getting a few mods to help with that. I had to do a lot of modding in the chat room today.
I can tell you this, Jeff. You make whatever decision you want. I would never encroach, but I know who all the trolls are, so you just let me know whatever you want to do.
Well, hey,
I would.
Mike, I don't have a way to get in touch with you outside of this. How do I get in touch with you off stream?
I can probably. You want to? Well, I don't want to put my phone number on here.
You have an
But
email, or are you on Twitter or anything?
I don't
Discord?
have Twitter. I don't have any of those other stuff, but I do have an email. I can. Let me pick an email, and I'll put it for you. And I'm just going to
Because,
get a
well,
hold
you
of
know what?
you.
Just because I'm going to end in half an hour or so. So just before you drop off, you can put it, and then I don't think anybody but us will see it if you
If
trust the three of
they, yeah,
us.
they can hit the back. They can see it in backstage, but it's tricky. It's a really tricky thing.
Well, here,
But
why don't I
no,
just give you?
yeah,
Well, no, I don't want to give you mine in backstage either because of the trolls. We'll figure something out.
yeah, it's all
We'll,
good.
we'll
But
have
no,
to
if
send
you,
signals somehow and communicate this email
yeah,
address.
That's why I come here, Jeff, because I like your even flow of your chat and your stream and all that. It's a we get a lot of ground covered. There's no arguing. There's no rage quitting. There's no name calling. Nothing like that.
yeah. So if you give some people some wrenches, if you give some people some wrenches, as a probationary thing, because I don't ever abuse one if I have one. I'll take people out that are talking about kids and family and stuff like that, and then I'll just. But what I'll usually do is I'll time them out. You'll
Fine,
time
wouldn't
them
that
out. Yeah.
Mike is a mod on Jeff's channel? Because that's another thing. I want to be strategic. I want to pick the mods that are going to most outrage and keep away the people. I want. So I want to make it a
I can give
political
you some
decision
guidance
as
on this,
well.
Jeff. I had to deal with these same decisions for 5 years with the subreddit
Yeah.
and the Discord for the IDW. Like these were the same concerns, and
What was your solution? How many mods did you use? What's a
well,
good number of mods? I want to just make sure there's someone here at all the times that I
so
stream.
I didn't really long run. I did not have a solution. I know what the barrier to the solution was, which is that to have good moderators. Basically, I'm the only person who could be a good moderator for free. So who would be willing to put in the time and make.
What do mods go for these days?
Oh, they could
That
be
I don't
around.
know.
I've had someone offer me a couple $100 a month, $200 a month.
Yeah, so I actually did get paid to moderate an mostly unrelated community for a couple hours each week at like 25 an hour. Before that community closed down, it's for that orthodontist, Dr. Mike Muse Discord server.
Yeah.
And that basically just involved like me organizing regular weekly voice chats and stuff. But if you are having something where there's going to be like regular involvement and having to like crack down on people and enforce rules, I think the point is there were a lot of people in the past, whether it was on the server or the Reddit, who would agree to be moderators. They do it for a little while, but they just did not take it seriously long enough because it's something they're doing for fun. And when people get paid to do something, they have obligation, and people take it more seriously then. And this is not just a thing I've learned moderating, is a thing I saw in the Democratic Party when we would try to organize party events. People would become party officers. When I was a party officer, I would take my responsibilities that are defined in my role more seriously and get them done. But then other things we would want to get done would not occur because other people did not do that. They would not show up to meetings. They would not participate in planning or executing projects. They just wanted to be on there so they could look cool, like on the team of officers. And that's often what goes into people joining something or not. They just think they do it for the status. And so that's the thing you got to filter for is find people who are in it with some sense of work ethic, and then make sure they're getting paid enough that they feel like that it equals what they bring to the table.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I guess at this point it's just a matter of how do you budget for that with what you've
Well,
got
first I need a
going
budget.
currently.
We might have to start on a volunteer basis, and then
Well,
once I have a
I don't
budget. And by the way, Lands, if you're in the back, cam up because we had a lot of impersonators this morning.
And so you would almost have to look at moderating as an investment at that point, right? Like if trolls end up being a barrier to, we'll say revenue growth, right? Like how much value
Head,
do
it's
you
not
unlock?
about me. It's about my guest and my panelists. It's not. It's less about me. If you notice the people I mod, they're rarely directing anything at me.
Well, if you want the most bang for the buck, because I don't want a dime from you, Jeff, I'll do it for free all day long. But if you're looking for something that's going to be able to know who the trolls are, because I know who all these trolls are, and you time them out, you give them a little bit of a break, and you give them a warning. Listen, I'm going to time you out. Don't come back with that negativity. They come back again, you time them out again. They come back a third time, then.
Oh no, there's no third time. There's one time and nuclear destruction. That's it.
Well,
These are grown people. I'm not here to teach people stuff that they should have picked up in
Jeff is
kindergarten.
correct. I agree with Jeff correctly. You give people a chance. The vast majority of the time, they never learn.
Well,
we
Jeff,
did a very strict policy on the subreddit, and just it's a character thing. They do not have the impulse control.
Yeah, I had to block Proby. It broke my heart to do it. I like Proby, but 2 or 3 times repeatedly disrespected my request to knock that shit off, and I can't have them over here anymore. They just will not respect that one basic request.
Sure. Yeah. Well, if you want to break if you want to break this little circle we have, throw me it now. It'll make people crazy.
I might do that, Mike. I seriously might consider
It'll
that.
make people crazy.
I think
Jeff,
you would make a very effective mod.
Very, very
Jeff,
effective.
I'm going to be stepping out in a moment to get to some work I want to get done today. But I did I wanted to drop you something. When I was away for a bit, when I had my cam off,
oops, sorry, Lance. There you are.
I was refilling my coffee. I was thinking about what you had said earlier about like ways to create like sort of an alternate space, like a nonpartisan thing, right? So we can have that again. And I said, I don't think we can really like create a space that does that. But what I think we can do that's kind of close to that is help people get more into a situation that you and I are in, where we are self-employed. And while it would be nice if we could be in this, say, maybe a workplace where we're with folks who can be nonpartisan, we at least have the benefit of like we're our own bosses. We don't have to worry about placating certain political or cultural narratives.
Yeah.
Work on something that allows people, let's say your audience, for example, to figure out how they can become self-employed, how they can start their own businesses, how they can leverage whatever skills.
Anybody can create a channel today and do what I did growing. I'm making money now just from doing a YouTube channel. There's the opportunities are never better from the kind of people I work with to try to get them.
I think that is the key. I think that is the key. And the more that people can be taught how to do that with whatever it is they bring to the table, the more likely we are to be in a world where we can get what you want. Because those are people who can say no, right? Like that Jordan Peterson talk. He's like, when someone pushes you a little harder than you should go, you can say no. That's what people need to be able to do.
Yeah, I don't know why they can't. I had no problem doing it. I paid a personal cost, but it was worth it.
Yeah. Well, I think some people really believe that they're not capable of doing things. Maybe
that's where I think things like you described, like nurturing, helping them discover a sense of their own empowerment and supporting that and helping it grow and providing a space and a support network for it to grow and having models of people that are doing it. I think that is the key.
Yeah, because like for me, a big part of why I thought I couldn't do things in my early adulthood was just the way that my mother had raised me, is that she would always nitpick everything that was wrong and make you believe that you were incompetent. You do it 95% right, she'd find the 5% that was wrong, and she'd give 100% of attention to that. But not just 100% of her attention, but she would have thermonuclear meltdowns over it, right? The whole house is vacuumed and dusted, but like the vase isn't in the right place, duck and cover. Like, and you just think, oh, I can't do anything. And that attitude can follow people into their adult lives. And
so you think more people were raised in disempowering environments that's the norm?
I suspect that there are a lot of influences people have throughout their lives. Some from their parents, maybe others from, if they were, say, in their friend group, maybe they were kind of the runt to their friend group and they were always kind of the butt of jokes and stuff. And so there are things that I think a lot of folks, they have these narratives of themselves that this is all I can do and I just have to make the best of that. And I think there's a lot of entrepreneurial potential that could be unlocked across millions of people if they could be shown otherwise.
I was raised the same way. You got to do something, do it right the first time. Don't fucking
Yeah.
Don't do nothing half-ass.
Yeah, my father would tell my mother, he's like, look, our kids are doing what you asked them to do when you asked them to do it. They're getting it 95% right. So many people would be great to have kids like that, and you're just discouraging them from even trying. And then her response to him was, so you're taking their side, right?
See, nowadays, like, we were raised by a whole generation of 50s and 60s people. You know what I mean? So, I mean, this generation nowadays, we were raised to have respect for people. This generation nowadays, they don't have respect for nobody.
No, they think we're all racist. They hate like every generation before them. They think are irredeemable.
Yeah, they act like integration didn't happen until 99 or something.
Right? Integration's been around for fucking centuries, my man.
Yeah, like I haven't known anything but that. Like my oldest friend, my best friend, I was his best man at his wedding. He's black. He and I met in kindergarten in 1997. I mean,
that shit's
like,
fire, dude. That's fire.
I know, and it's like that would not have happened if he and I had been born like 4 or 5 decades prior. Right? We've been in a totally different start. And so we live in a completely different world, and people don't want to give us credit for that. Anyway, Jeff, if you ever want to talk about that angle with me about pulling out the inner self businessman of folks.
Yeah, I do. I'd love to get. I see this as like a little incubator and laboratory. I'd love to. I've always tried to nurture entrepreneurship here.
Yo, I'm an inventor.
Hey, Lanza.
An inventor, an investor.
Well, I invented investing in myself.
There we
go. Which therefore in turn.
I'm coming in really low today.
Which in turn returned the to the people around me. It's probably like 7-fold. So it's gonna.
Nope, still not. It's cutting it out.
Wow.
We'll have to get it next time.
Hello.
Nadros, that's because I'm 45. Some days I feel like I'm an old man. Holy shit, with the shit I do in my life. I'm amazed I'm still kicking. But I'm glad
Well, Joe, it was absolutely a pleasure. I hope you come back again.
Yeah, well, I'll be back, and just let me know if there's anything you want to pick my brain on.
Oh yeah, I'll hit you up. I think there's lots.
All right, see you later, guys.
Okay. Take care. Great to see you.
Nice
Have a
talking.
great day.
Nice talking. Enjoy your day.
Okay.
So guys,
just the three of us.
Do you you got anything you want to wrap up with, Derek? Leave us with?
No, I'm good, man. I learned a lot in this conversation. Food for thought, you know what I mean? And yeah. I'm not as naive to say that I know everything about a lot of things. I'm learning things every day. You know
You're
what I mean?
humble. I envy that. I wish I could be more like you.
I was raised to be humble, just because you're up here one minute, it doesn't mean you're gonna be up here the next. You know what I mean? So you gotta be humble and grateful for what you have today.
I think you are going to be better off in the long run for that than me.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, you know what? You can work on you being.
I do try. There are moments when it happens.
I mean, those antlers, though, man, that's as humble as you can be. Would never be caught dead wearing antlers, brother. Seriously.
Oh well.
I mean, the only thing you're missing is a Rudolph the Red-Nosed costume. And
Christmas is just around the corner.
Hey, yeah,
as long as it doesn't look too gay.
Jeff, I got $20 for you if you guys can shake your moneymaker there. Shake what your mama gave you.
Which part did she give? Am I?
Hey man, I'm busting your balls.
We've done panel dances before, and I've gone shirtless to dance.
Yeah, I'm busting your balls. You guys should be grateful.
You're busting my butt, and you're preparing me for the future. I have a feeling too, because you're not gonna be the first.
Usually, when I'm comfortable with people, I like to joke, so you guys should feel good about that. So.
Right on, man. Right on.
Well, we appreciate you, Derek.
I mean, I grew up with Italian, so I'm a good ball buster. Trust me.
Oh wow, another Italian. I love the Italian energy. I had no idea Italians were so cool.
I'm not Italian, but I grew up with Italians.
Oh, you grew up. Well, you have some of that culture.
Yeah.
That cultural energy.
Yeah. My mom was First Nations Korean. My dad's Ukrainian.
Oh.
Wow.
I have a little bit of ukulele.
What's up?
Ukulele.
Your mic is still doing its thing.
Why?
And I have you turned up full blast.
Why, dude?
Tom, you have a bit of ukulele, and never heard of that culture before. Is it? I'm busting your balls, Tom. Don't worry about it. Forget about it.
No problem.
Forget about it. Don't worry about it.
Well, Lanza, if we can get you to come in today, I want to catch up with you.
What the hell is with supercalifragilistic and the brothers?
Yeah,
your
Secrets,
robot.
Secrets. Just ignore Supercal. It's a troll. It's a troll, bro. Just ignore that person.
I'm definitely not a troll, bro.
No, supercalifragilistic is a troll.
It's a troll.
It's a sock account. They're doing a bit.
Yeah.
Well, we'll try to do another day. You guys have a great day. Thank you. Bye.
All right, we'll catch up later, Lance. Take care. Derek, it was good to see you.
You too, brother.
I'll be out later. Have a good rest of your day.
I will be if you're up again, I will be up, brother. Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, man. Stop by anytime.
Of course.
Sarone, we'll see you later.
Another.
Is there a way to message through YouTube? Like, because we both have YouTube accounts.
Do you want my email? I'll give it to you. If you want to put it
In fact, let me do this. I'm going to take the link out. Because the minute you put it, the trolls are going to pop up and try to grab it.
Let me get a pen and a paper because I have a couple emails. So let me pull one up. Give me 1 second, Jeff.
Give a spam one just in case the troll gets it.
Give me 1 second.
And you can give me your real one later.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I just need like 1 or 2 minutes, real quick. Give me 1 second, Jeff. Let me write this down. Because I have a few. I barely use them. Okay. Okay. Let me give 1 second. I'm writing it down. I should have this memorized. It's easy. Okay. All right. You want me to put it backstage?
Yeah, I'm gonna end now. So yeah, put it backstage, and then I'll end the show in that way. In fact, okay, we're ending now. Mike's gonna end the show with me, and I'm gonna play us out, and then Mike's gonna drop the link on his way out, and I'm gonna end the stream as soon as he does that. So here we go. Thank you. Oh, hang on 1 second. I am going in the Discord to watch this live chat with Benjamin Boyce and King Crocoduck. So you're welcome to join us there. That's where I'll be. And then I'll be back out later. I think I'm gonna spend some time in Discord for a few hours today. So later afternoon or early evening, I'll be back out doing another stream. All right, here we go.
All right.
Take
and then
us
when you're
out.
done, I'll be back.
All right, yeah, whenever you're ready, and then I'll just.
All right, let me go back there. Let me go back there real quick. All right, it says I'm in the show. It doesn't say backstage. It says I'm in the show.
Oh, here, I can put you. Yeah, there we go. Can you? And you should still be able to type. Oh, it didn't work. You dropped off. I think he probably went to type and it kicked him off. We'll have to catch it another time. I'll get it from you, Mike, somehow. We'll do it. All right, take care, everyone. I'm going to watch this episode on Israel. It's okay. He dropped off backstage. He lost connection or something. So we'll do it later. All right, I'll see everyone in Discord or later today. Take care.